are racing in the Formula Winter Series for the second weekend. 1.3 seconds in there. It does get a mighty run outside of the final corner. Danny Sufi loses it into the first corner. We are underway and racing in the GT Winter Series, but already
Well, a very good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, where the season finale of the 2026 Winter Series is about to get underway. We are standing in a live pit lane right now. The cars are going past as the final qualifying sessions are just now finishing, and we are very excited for the weekend that lies ahead. What a season finale we have ahead of us. I mean, yes, the titles are wrapped up in the Formula Winter Series and in the GT4 Winter Series, although still a team's title to fight for in the Formula Winter Series. But as for the GT Winter Series, well, 4 points separate Orange Racing, Simon Orange and Marcus Clutton from 2024 champions SR's J-Mo Hetling and Kenneth Heyer. Anything can happen this weekend. We have had a lot of rain this morning. What will the weather entail for the rest of the day? Well, we'll have to wait and see. But we are hugely excited to see what happens this weekend. We've got a lot of fans in the paddock as well. And another thing that we are happy to have this weekend is a new member of our team. We welcome in Kieran Mogg for the first time, and Kieran has been very busy already over the weekend, chatting in the brand new Heroes Arena. Now, this is an area of the paddock where we have had some of our faces from around the Winter Series. Come and chat to this guy here. Well, first of all, Kieran, great to have you as part of our team. A very warm welcome. I mean, just how much fun have you been having this weekend?
It's been pretty special, 100%. I mean, being able to talk to the drivers, it's not just drivers, but we've had some of the team members. We've been able to speak to the guys that make food. We've been speaking to Pirelli. We've spoken to Gulf Racing Fuels. You know, we've had a lot of really good chats with everybody, finding out all the different stories going on in the pit lane that you don't normally get to hear about on the broadcast. So it's been a fantastic experience to speak to you, yeah.
Yeah, we've kept Kieran very, very busy running around doing so many interviews. You're going to get to hear some of those interviews. But the other thing we have to say, Kieran, is that you have actually been with us for the whole of the Winter Series. But on the other side of things, because you've been working with, of course, the wonderful team at Alpha Live, who are all responsible for the coverage that you are watching now. But for this weekend, we got Kieran in front of the camera. And Kieran actually got the chance to speak to one of his heroes yesterday, Felipe Massa. What a name to interview.
I was a bit nervous, I'll be totally honest, and but obviously we had Felipe and his son Pipo come and join us, which was absolutely fantastic, and we had a really good conversation with him. Obviously Pipo, brand new to GT racing, he raced his first GT race a couple of weeks ago in Interlagos. He got a double rookie win in that weekend, so fantastic start to his racing career. And so we had a bit of a chat between the three of us, and yeah, really fantastic to be able to get an opportunity to speak with them and have them in the paddock for this last round of the series.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, from Interlagos to Barcelona, and we have got a fantastic weekend coming up for you, and delighted to have that big name in our paddock. We've got plenty of exciting names in our paddock, though. Racing starting later on this afternoon. We will be starting with the Formula Winter Series, and you had a chance to chat to the team managers because, as I said, there is a three-way fight for this team's title between Rodin, Van Amersfoort Racing and Us Racing, and you were hearing a couple of their thoughts, weren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, we spoke to the three teams, and we spoke basically about the drivers that they've had. You know, obviously we've had people like Dries just completely run away with it and impress every single person in the paddock. And the other drivers that have taken part in it, you know, we spoke to the teams about it, spoke to them about sort of how they're feeling the pressure going into this weekend, whether they feel the pressure to win it, is it not as much of a priority for them, and they all seem to be quite quietly confident about winning it. So only one can win, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we certainly will. Right, let's hear that interview then. Kieran spoke to the team managers earlier in the weekend.
Hello and welcome back to the Heroes Arena. We've got Dick from Rodin, Anna from Us Racing, and of course Martin from Van Amersfoort, the top teams in the Formula Winter Series. Now, Anna, let's start with you. in many ways, US Racing has been one of the main powerhouses of the Formula Winter Series. Is it important to you to win this championship and just prove that your team is still on top?
Of course. I mean, we are a team that always wants to win, so our first goal is to win a championship and no more.
And Dick, you've already secured both the rookie and the overall drivers' championship with Dries. Is there any feeling of pressure to try and get the triple and win the constructors as well?
I don't think there's any pressure coming into this weekend. We didn't have any expectations coming to this championship. It's all about preparation for the drivers. Obviously, all three of them being rookies. So whatever happens this weekend, we'll be happy with the improvements they've all made.
Perfect. And Martin, VAR team is slightly further back in the points. Is the directive of the drivers still to just try and push as much as you can, or is it maybe can try and conserve the car a bit, be a bit more mindful about going for positions?
No, I think they should always push. They are also still fighting for their own championship, although we cannot win it anymore with the drivers, but there's still a second place.
Absolutely. And of course, this year has been one of the most toughest years of competition we've seen so far in the Formula Winter Series. Has there been a particular highlight for any of you? This is a question to all of you. A particular highlight that you've had throughout the year so far?
The dry sessions here and in Valencia.
I think for us, it's got to be race 3 in Motorland. I think all three of us, we each had a car at the front. It was a great last lap. So, and obviously, it's the way we won the driver's title.
We had many highlights, good ones, bad ones. I think one of the highlights were last week when one of our drivers, Savinkov, got P2 coming from P22, I believe. I think that was really cool to see. And of course, all the wins we had, the podiums we had, and starting with new drivers this year.
And of course, you mentioned last weekend in Aragon, the racing there was nothing short of phenomenal. Were you watching with a little bit of concern about how hard the drivers were pushing and fighting each other?
No, I think that's what we're all here for. We're good racing, as long as it's clean and it's fair. That's what we all want to see, really.
Yeah, I think for us the same thing. Of course, there is some excitement at the pit wall and you're looking, and sometimes, yeah, you are a bit concerned, but this is how it should be.
Absolutely. And final question to you all. Obviously, the Formula Winter Series is very good for getting your teams and getting your drivers ready for the forthcoming season. How is it for not only developing the drivers, but developing the mechanics, developing the car ahead of the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think this is a nice way to start. I mean, you can go testing, but yeah, it's good that they start with racing already and that they're fully prepared for the whole season that's coming up.
No matter how hard you try to simulate a qualifying session or a race simulation on a test day, it's never quite the same as actually doing it for real. So I think the preparation as a team all round is really great.
I agree. I think the preparation for all of us was really good this year. We had lots of rain. We normally don't have, especially us in Italy, we don't have that much rain. So I think we got good preparation for this. We had a tough schedule, so we had back-to-back races. We started already on Thursday. So it was good getting into it with all the race action and driving time we had.
Perfect. Well, Anna, Dick, Martin, thank you very much for joining us here in the Heroes Arena.
Well, what an opportunity to hear from the team managers coming in to this weekend. As I say, 21 points separate those three teams, and anything can happen in the Formula Winter Series, as it often does. Now, we do have a red flag in the qualifying session as it stands. If we do have incidents in the races, though, something that will be needed is, of course, the safety car. We have seen it throughout the season. We may indeed see it out on track this afternoon. We hope not, obviously. We hope not to get too many incidents. But Kieran, I mean, you were a little bit excited to do this interview, weren't you? Because you got to have up close and personal with the safety car. We don't usually get that close to the safety car.
No, exactly. I mean, if you look around, we're right next to all the race cars, but the safety car is not something that we ever really get up close to. And I'll be totally honest, the one thing I really wanted to do was turn the lights on. And so I'm really glad I got to do that, but you'll see that in a second.
Yeah, Kieran has been having so much fun talking to so many different individuals from around the paddock. He was a little bit of a kid in a candy shop with the safety car. As he rightly said, he got the chance to turn on the safety car lights and hear all about what it takes to be a safety car driver. Let's hear about that now.
Hello and welcome back to the Heroes Arena, and as you'll see, we're stood in front of the GEDLICH safety car, and it's maybe a car that you don't know all that much about. Yes, okay, we see it a lot in the races, but let's actually have a deep dive into it and show you exactly what it is. So, it's a BMW M3 competition touring the estate. It is... It's a 500 horsepower from a twin-turbo 3-litre straight-six engine, 0 to 60 in about 3.6 seconds. By itself, it is a very, very quick car. Of course, when you compare it to the race cars that are out on track, it looks a little bit slow. But what's really interesting as well, if you take a look in here, is the car is actually... It's standard. It's not a race car, it is just a standard road car. And what you'll find is that you'll see this car out on the public roads driving to and from the events. So what they have to do is they have to take the lights off of the car. So you see these roof bars are mounted on like this, and they can just take them off whenever they need to drive it on the public road. So let's have a quick chat with our race director. And so, Dino, if I can just get you in here a second. So this is Dino, the race director. Let's first talk about the communication between race control and the safety car. Is it you that does it directly, or do you have somebody that does it for you?
Hello. So about the communication from race control to safety car comes from the clerk of the course, but the clerk of the course receives instruction by me. So I'm in charge to deploy the safety car, and we are in radio contact with the safety car driver and the observer to give him instruction about when he need to go on track. After that, we show the boards and flags, and about the speed. And another most important point is about the racing line. What I mean, sometimes we ask to the safety car driver to stay on the right side or left-hand side approaching one turn, because maybe we have a recovery vehicle or marshal on track just to protect them.
And let's talk about the driver themselves. What conditions must they meet to be able to drive the safety car? So, for example, if I wanted to become a safety car driver, what conditions would I have to meet to be one?
To be a safety car driver, you need to have a license. And usually the safety car driver is a skilled and experienced driver, local driver, because he know the tracks, he know the racing line, he know the track also in some particular weather condition, what I mean, under rain. So you cannot jump directly and drive. You need to be experienced local driver.
Absolutely. And so in terms, obviously, the communications that happen between race control and the safety car driver, you mentioned there about it's not just about when they're going out on track, it's also about, say, for example, you need to take a certain line or you need to slow down for a certain section. Is there a set list of communications that you have that is kind of the same across the board no matter what event you go to? Or is every sort of race control a little bit different in the way they communicate?
No, usually we have a common command that we all agree, like safety car deploy, safety car on track, and blah, blah. Sometimes happens that we need to have an extra briefing with the driver or maybe the race control, because maybe they have a different point to manage and to approach the safety car on track. Another point, another communication that sometimes we are obliged to give to the safety car driver is to switch the green light instead of the yellow, just to allow the cars that stay behind to overtake the safety car, because maybe we don't have the leader just behind the safety car.
Okay, perfect. And the last question, obviously the most obvious and visual thing about the safety car is the lights. Is it a complicated system, or is it literally just a switch that you turn it on?
No, it's really easy. Yeah. You just need to switch on the power, and just you need to play with two lights, yellow or green. Usually we stay always with the yellow, okay? But as I told you, sometimes we need to switch to green because we don't have the leader behind the safety car. It means that these cars are allowed to overtake safety car. Another point is when safety car switch off the lights is one of the most tricky moments, because driver know that we are ready to restart. So safety car speed up, come back to the pit, and we start again. And
one last question then. Can I switch on the lights?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, perfect. I've always wanted to do it. I want to do it. So while we're here, we may as well. So it's the switch that's... where is the switch? I don't know where it is.
Should be. I don't know if it's connected.
Oh, is it not connected? Hold on. Oh, it's back here.
It's not connected.
If I give that to you. Things you never get to see behind the scenes. Hey, there we go. Right, so what do I do?
And you need to switch on the engine because you need power.
All right.
That you have the key.
No, I don't. But, okay, so...
Let's see. Yes.
Is it on? Hey, safety car lights are on. I'm a safety car driver. Thank you very much for joining us, and we're back in the Heroes Arena very shortly.
My pleasure.
I tell you what, Kieran, we are giving you all the best jobs, aren't we? I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a smile that big on your face. That looked like a lot of fun.
I did have a lot of fun. Obviously, I had to get all the sensible questions out of the way first, but then I was like, can I try it, please?
I would have done the same thing. I would have asked to test it out as well. I mean, yeah, it's so cool to get up close and personal with that safety car. As we've already said, we don't usually get the opportunity to. And, you know, we can't go racing without the safety car. We can't go racing without a number of our partners in this paddock. Of course, we can't go racing without any fuel either. And you had the chance to speak to somebody from Gulf as well, our fuel partner, just to kind of get the ins and the outs of, I guess, the differences between race fuel and road fuel and what it takes to fuel the whole paddock.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I've never personally driven a race car, so I've got no idea what needs to go into it. I know it's something about the octane, but that's as far as my knowledge extends. So basically, it was just a case of, right, tell me about it. I don't understand, and I'm sure lots of people at home don't understand as well. If you've never driven a car, if you've never been in the paddock, it's something that you're not going to have that knowledge of. And so it's very interesting to find that out, and obviously massive thanks to Gulf for being able to show us around it.
And that is the point of the Heroes Arena, isn't it? I mean, it's to take you behind the scenes and show you these stories, things that we, as I've said many times, don't often get to see, but also things that we want to understand a little bit more about. So like the fuel, like the tyres, like the safety car, because ultimately there are so many people behind this sport that means that we can go racing. There's so many different elements that means that we can have these wonderful cars out on track behind us. And that's been exactly Kieran's job, is to get those stories. Right, let's hear about the fuel then and see what keeps these cars fueled all the way through the weekend.
So we're back here again in the Heroes Arena with Thomas Cavall from Gulf, and we're talking about fuel. Now, fuel is one of the most important and yet, for a large part, most unknown quantities in a racing paddock. So let's start with the basics. What's the difference between race fuel and the normal road use fuel that we put in our own cars?
Hello, my name is Thomas Cavall, and I'm responsible for market development in Pro Energy Fuels and Gulf Race Fuels for Europe. The difference between pump fuel from the station and the fuel we are delivered to the paddock here is performance. Octane number, which is 101 above, compared to pump station 98 octane, brings more performance, but beside of this, we have quality, which is every time the same. Fuel from the drum, which we deliver to the paddock, is all the time the same.
And obviously, you bring a lot of fuel with you for a race weekend. How much have you brought for this weekend, for example?
This weekend we brought around 20,000 liters, and that's a huge quantity. We brought that in 250-liter drums from the Rotterdam facility where the fuel is produced. Fuel truck arrived today, and the fuel is already delivered to every single team on the paddock.
And when it comes to developing the race fuel, what are some of the key components that has to go into it to make sure that it's A, compliant with the cars, but also B, good for the performance of the cars?
Yes, from the beginning we have to look at the regulations, FIA regulations, for example, and then we are trying to bring the best performance to the engine. That means a lot of hours which we spent on proof station, with dyno stations and so on.
Perfect. And of course, this season, Gulf are partners with GEDLICH for the GT Winter Series. Talk to us about that relationship that you've had so far this season.
The relationship is great. We are cooperating very close. We have direct contact every day. All the problems, actually we don't have any problems, but all the daily problems, let's say, are solved immediately.
And of course, there's a lot going on in a paddock. Do you or the team behind the scenes ever get a chance to actually watch the racing?
Actually not. Unfortunately, it's a lot of work. We have, let's say, a few hours during the weekend, which we can spend on the paddock and look how it looks and watch the show. But actually, we have a lot of work, which we're doing all the time.
No, I'm not surprised about that. Well, thank you very much for joining us here in the Heroes Arena, and we'll head back to the racing.
Well, welcome back to the pit lane, and we are going to be getting racing underway very, very shortly. But Kieran, you've been mighty busy. Give me a highlight. What has been the highlight of all these interviews? Because I think you must have done at least 20 interviews over the last 2 days.
I've done a fair few, yeah. I mean, I'd be silly not to say, like, Felipe Massa, obviously. Turn the safety car lights on was pretty cool. But also, during that Teams Championship chat with the Formula guys, just their confidence and sort of, you know, their sort of competitiveness coming out within each other. I think that was very entertaining from my side. So, yeah, there's been a lot of highlights by Felipe, which you'll see on the live stream tomorrow.
Yes, indeed you will. Make sure you stick around for today and tomorrow. Well, we have got the Formula cars just about to enter the pit lane, and the racing is going to be getting underway very shortly. As Kieran said, you know, the competitiveness coming out between these three teams, and all three teams fighting for the team's championship will be starting in the top 5. So we've got an incredible race coming up for you. We've got the first race of the Formulas, then the GT4s, and then the GTs. Boys up in commentary, this is going to be a good day.
So then, the Formula Winter Series up first, and a circuit that's giving me a vibe that it's going to be a bit tricky for everybody. It's not currently raining around the circuit, but it is still very much a damp circuit at the moment. It's deceivingly damp. As we can see down there at the first corner, it almost looks dry, but I guarantee you, if you tried to go out on the slick right now, it would be a bridge too far. It is the 5th round of the Winter Series, the 6th event total, including, of course, the 6 hours of Portimao from February. And it's always good to be here at the home of the Catalonia Grand Prix, as it will now be for 2026. Of course, an integral part now of Spanish motorsport, of the Formula One calendar, and many calendars besides. For 35 years, opened in 1991 this circuit, and myself, Adam Weller, and Andy McEwen alongside me, love coming here. This is where Andy made his Winter Series debut, and in fact it's where I made my Winter Series debut a couple of years apart, and it is always a highlight of the calendar. It's one that the drivers look forward to, that opportunity to drive past the iconic grandstand on the main straight, that long run down to the first corner. They cover 10 on the Camp Nou Barcelona Football Club pitch on the way down for the final corner to the first corner. 4.657 kilometers in length, this circuit. 14 turns, 28 meters worth of elevation on this circuit. And as we said, established in September of 1991. Of course, has been a consistent factor in the global motorsport calendar since then. We've got a little bit of a dry spell at the moment out there on the circuit, but as you can see, we're not expecting it to remain dry for the remainder of the racing. Going into the GT4s and the GTs after the Formula race, I think we're going to have some head scratching going on as to what tyres to use, what setup to prepare for the car going into the race. Will it be moderate? Will it be severe? We'll have to wait and see, but we are excited to watch this unfold. Of course, Izzy alluded to it down in the pit lane. The GT4 championship is decided. The GT championship is very much up for grabs. Here in the formulas, Dries van Langendonk has already secured both the overall title and the rookie championship standings, but the runners-up in both of those categories is very interesting. But I think the big story, and of course, we spoke to all three team bosses at once just now with Kieran. and that was very much the topic at hand. The Teams Championship is the one that they all seem to be concentrating on at the moment.
Indeed so. It is mighty, mighty close at the top. 3 points in it between Road and Motorsport and Us Racing. And yeah, similar story as Adam quite rightly said for the runners-up spot in each championship. Just 9 points separate Thomas Behrman and Ari Bansal for second place in the overall Drivers' Championship, with Alexander Savinkov creeping up to fourth. And then Samuel Ifrid, Ethan Lennon only 6 points apart for second in the Rookies' Championship. So lots of talking points, not only in formulas but across all of our categories this weekend, and a fantastic venue to round things out. Hopefully the weather plays ball, but regardless, it's always been a circuit that produces good racing, and I think the formulas in particular will put on a real show for us this afternoon.
Okay, yes they will, and we've talked about the tyre aspect of that show extensively. It feels like a good opportunity then to get some insight with Pirelli. They, I think, have been using a lot of their treaded tyres this year, and we heard from them down in the paddock earlier this week.
Back in the Heroes Arena, we are welcoming Mario Quintanero from Pirelli to the arena. Mario, during a normal race weekend, what is your role for Pirelli?
I'm the owner of a company that works for Pirelli. We make especially the Portuguese and some also Spanish market, and that's why I'm here.
Fantastic. And of course, there's a whole operation behind the scenes that nobody really sees, between getting the tyres to the circuit, storing them, and getting them ready for the teams. Talk to us about the process of getting all of that ready before they even get on the cars.
Okay, these events with GEDLICH is a little bit complicated, more than the normal ones, because we receive orders, we just received orders yesterday, so it's not easy to get all the tires on time. We normally the orders must be closed, let's say 2 weeks before, to have a normal process from order the tires to get the tires here.
So do you normally bring an additional however many tires to an event just to make sure that you've got enough to cover the team's orders then?
Yes, normally the calculation that we have always is, first of all, we have one set of wets for each team, extra, means spare. And then we have a calculation about between 50 to 20% more tires that the orders. This is normal.
And so in terms of numbers, how many tires do you bring to an event?
So for this event, Barcelona is something special, because here we have a lot of other races. So I mean, a lot of teams are coming here, not only for race, but also for testing. And only for GT3 and GT4, we have roughly 1,500 tires here in stock.
That's quite a lot, isn't it? And so between the testing and between the racing, between the qualifying, between all the different categories that you provide for, towards the end of the weekend, you have a lot of used tires. What happens to them?
We the used tires, we send them back to Portugal, and we have today's Friday, and we have already sent 2 full trucks back home. They are not destroyed. We have in Portugal there's a special treatment. All the tires that you buy, you pay already a certain amount. It's very low, €1.40 something, and this tire go back to the closed circuit. That means the tires will be recycling again.
Fantastic. It's fantastic to know that they are going to be recycled, to be used again, hopefully on some race cars later down the line.
No, they normally they use for mixing with the tarmac. I know, and then other products also, not for race again, because they will be destroyed by recycled.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for enlightening us with that information, and hope to see you around the paddock, and hope you enjoyed the racing as well for this final weekend of the GT Winter Series.
Always.
Thank you very much for joining us.
So then, the Formula Winter Series cars have made their way, or are making their way, around the circuit at the moment, ready to go racing for the first time this weekend. We're ready for 30 minutes plus 1 lap of racing, and he'll be shocked who's on pole position. Dries van Langendonk once again at the sharp end of the field, and I think there's a big story there at the front, Andy. Last year, in his first season in the Formula Wind Series, Thomas Behrmann scored his first podium here at Barcelona. He's going to be very, very keen indeed to claim a first win in the Formula Wind Series on what, on the balance of probabilities, will be his final weekend in the championship, having already done 2 years. Thomas Behrmann is going to be so keen to break that duck. He has won in British Formula 4, of course, but he was coming into this season wanting to fight for wins and championships. He can win the vice championship in the overall standings, and I'm sure a victory here at Barcelona would be a great cap-off.
Yeah, it's a bit of a toss-up as to which of those accolades he's the most keen to grab. I mean, second place in the championship, I can sort of get the vibe that, you know, if you're not right at the top in this business, particularly junior single-seater racing, then it's hard for the drivers to be that enthusiastic about it, but he will be absolutely desperate to get that first win of the season. He's on the back of a 5-race podium streak at the moment. He's had 3 third places, 2 second place finishes in the last 5 races, added on to 2 podiums from the Portuguese leg as well. So 7 podiums, no wins, and that is really a remarkable stat for a driver who, as you said, is in his 2nd year in the championship. The rookies really have arrived with a bang in the 2026 Winter Series, and once again, they make up the majority of the grid, and indeed 4 of the top 6 grid positions are filled with rookies in this one. So Thomas Behrmann's going to have a fight on his hands if he is going to claim that first win of the season. But it is a track, as you quite rightly say, that he's gone well at before. I think Thomas Behrmann is going to be particularly fired up for this one. In qualifying earlier on today, he was about a quarter of a second slower than Dries van Langendonk in, I think, slightly wetter conditions than these, where we're getting our first sort of look at the track conditions. There is very little spray. This back straight section on the run between turns 9 and 10, the wettest that I've seen so far. It is, of course, a modern-day Formula 1 grade facility, so the drainage here is very, very good. We've seen that put to good use over the years here at Barcelona, and that means at least the surface water, the worst of it, has drained away largely. There aren't really any puddles, there's no real standing water. Again, I'm not anticipating a slick tyre is going to be the tyre of choice at any point in the next half hour or so, but I think these wet Pirelli tyres, the drivers are really going to have to manage them, look after them, and make sure they've still got some grip potentially in the second half of the race. So lots for the drivers to juggle here, and lots of intriguing storylines to play out. Thomas Behrmann, we mentioned, wants that first race win, wants that second place in the championship. The man he's fighting is Arie Bansel, and he starts not far behind, 4th on the grid for us racing. So that battle, I think, is set to take our attention pretty much from the drop of the green flag.
And in conditions like these, there's always that question mark, that X factor of will somebody try something further back in the field. I still think it's a bit too early for the slicks right now, but we saw drivers such as Chiara Batigue, of course, take huge advantage of a roll of the dice and a good decision going into the 3rd race at Estoril. And actually, speaking to Chiara about that, apparently she'd pick herself as her own race strategist going forward as a result of making the decision to pit. You can see there treaded tyres on everyone visible there in that shot. Alexander Savinkov having a new set of boots applied to his car. The US Racing driver who has his team manager alluded to down in the Heroes Arena with Kieran. Outside the top 20, 21st on the grid, and managed to finish in 2nd place. One of the drives of the season. And I think Alexander, when he's been doing well, he's been doing very well, because let's not forget that Estoril race we referenced, race 3, that was his first win in F4, and that was, again, a very impressive drive.
It was indeed. He's really been a little bit stop-start, hasn't he, this season? He had that win at Estoril, got 1 podium finish at Portimao, 2nd place in race 3, and then didn't return to the podium until that fantastic fight through the field last time at Aragon, from 21st on the grid to 2nd, as we've well documented. So Savinkov looking for a bit of consistency now, albeit at the back end of the season. He is starting 7th, so the US Racing driver towards the pointy end of the grid, certainly closer to the front than he was this point last week, and he'll be having his eyes set firmly towards the front of the grid. to get to the front, of course. He'll have to get past a few other drivers who are keen to try and get a strong result as well. So he has a fight on his hands. I think this is going to be another fantastic showing from the Formula Winter Series. Cars on the grid. Also on the grid is Izzy Browning.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Andy. I'm very, very excited for this race. Of course, the team's title to be decided, as we have been saying. But it wouldn't be the Formula Winter Series, would it, without this man on pole position, the number 15 of Dries van Langendonk, wrapped up the title last weekend in Aragon. Just having a few words with Warren from the McLaren Junior team, of course, backed by McLaren. And he's taken a triple pole to end his time here in the Formula Winter Series. But he wants to complete that and take the wins. And, of course, the team manager will be hoping that Rodin can take the team's title as well. But can this man here get a win? Well, we'll have to wait and see. Thomas, you got a podium here last year, your first podium in the Formula Winter Series. A real chance to end things on a high. It's a track that you do pretty well at.
Yeah, obviously it was quite successful last year in similar conditions as well. So it's nice to be back. A track that I quite enjoy. So it's good. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously starting in a bit of a better place than last year. Hopefully I don't jump the start again. But see what we can do.
And you seem to have really found your stride in the last couple of weeks. It was a great weekend in Aragon. So coming into this weekend with so much confidence, you've got Dries ahead of you. It's going to be a little bit of bragging rights if you can beat the championship winner, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. We'll see. It's a long race. It's quite a high deck track, so it's going to be a lot of management, and we'll see what we can do. Hopefully, we can definitely bring the fight to Dries.
All right, best of luck. Thanks for speaking to us. Right, we will continue back. Now, as I said, if you were with us earlier on the broadcast, all three teams in this championship fight are in the top 5. VAR, Rodin and Us Racing. There is another one of the Rodins, Ethan Lennon, the number 32, will start from P3, and here comes the next car in this list. Well, the number 46 of Ari Bansal, of course, took a win last weekend in Aragon, and for Us Racing, we'll be hoping that he can take some big points this weekend. Well, Ari, it was a win last weekend in Aragon. You guys are fighting for the team's title, so you need to get up front and get some big points here.
I think for sure, I need to get some good points, need to beat Rodin for the team's championship. And so just me also, as my teammates also, that need to get there, because it's a top 2 standings, top 2 finishing positions in the team. So I'll do my bit. Let's see what my teammates can do.
Have fun. Best of luck. Thanks for speaking to us. Right, we'll continue back because I want to try and see as many cars as we can. Now, if you've been with us before in the Winter Series, you'll know that Barcelona has a little bit of a last day of school feel to it. I mean, these drivers often throwing caution to the wind in their final race weekend with us. The number 77 of Alfie Slater comes next. That is all three Rodins. Well, they're starting one behind each other. We got a line of Rodin cars, and the Rodin team will certainly be feeling a little bit nervous before this and hoping that their drivers can take a clean start and all get up front. We'll see what Dries van Langendonk can do. He'll definitely want to keep winning in the championship. Just because the title is wrapped up doesn't mean the winning is done yet for Dries van Langendonk. And to round out our top 6, we have a newcomer to the championship in Timo Youngling with the Campos team. Let's see what he can do in his first weekend with the Formula Winter Series. Let's see what happens in this first race.
Nexano, on the path to becoming the world's largest independent business community. We connect entrepreneurs, experts, and decision makers across industries and across borders. In our digital ecosystem, people share knowledge, learn from each other, and grow together. Companies and talents gain access to relevant contacts, resources, and innovative projects. Our community stands for transparency, trust, and sustainable economic success. We create space for inspiration, collaboration, and new business models. Nexano, shaping the future of business networking, global, digital, and accessible to everyone.
We can see the board being raised at the top of our screen. We are ready to go racing in the Formula Winter Series, and the front row will be an interesting one. Dries van Langendonk for Rodin, the current team's points leaders. Thomas Behrman for Van Amersfoort Racing, the team that has to do the most work to try and win this team's championship this weekend. Ethan Lennon alongside Ari Bansal on row number 2. Bansal looking to make up for a difficult weekend in Motorland Aragon. Alfie Slater, 5th position alongside Timo Jungling on his single-seater racing debut for Campos. What an effort he's put in so far. Alexander Savinkov alongside Leon Hedfors on row 4 of the grid, and rounding out the top 10 on row 5, Platon Kostin along with George Proudfoot-Nalder, who I think turned quite a lot of heads in his AKM car a couple of weeks ago. In fact, 1 week ago. 11th and 12th on the grid, Levian and Samuel Ifrid. Ifrid looking to get more points on the board this weekend. Max Kamalander along with Alexander Chartier, 13th and 14th on the grid. You see all of those purple slots on the grid, incidentally. All rookies, very rookie heavy at the top. Theo Borenstein and Oscar Repetto on row 8. Georgi Zazov and Arjen Kraling looking for a second win of the season before the end of the year. Pedro Lima and Andre Rodriguez next up in 19th and 20th. Victor Polson and Marcus Silkunas, 21st and 22nd. Then it's Chiara Batigue along with Ludovico Busso, 25th and 26th place, Ginevra Panzeri and Noah Killian. And then towards the back of the field, it will be Vittorio Orsini with Eric Poulsen in the 54 car, rounding out the 28 cars set to take the start in this race. It's going to be hectic. We've got the fewest cars we've had on the grid this season, and when that number is 28, you're doing quite well as a championship, but it's still going to be very, very hectic through turns 1, 2 and 3 in these slippery conditions. I think we're going to see drivers really fighting for real estate through those corners, and I imagine we're going to see a few people taking that runoff area that exists at turn 1.
I suspect you're probably right, and that in itself is not necessarily a drama, but it's how they then rejoin the circuit exiting turn 2 that can occasionally cause trouble here. We've seen that in the past, but I'm sure the drivers will have that in their mind as they approach the grid slots now ahead of this first race of the weekend. We don't expect rain during this race, so the track is only going to get drier over the course of the 30 minutes, provided that weather forecast we saw at the top of the show is accurate. As I said, I don't think it's going to dry out completely, but you really do have to manage those wet tyres, keep them underneath you, especially if we do get a late safety car, which I would say there's a reasonable likelihood of the safety car appearing at some point during this race. You need to make sure you've got the rubber underneath you to be able to fight for those positions in the latter going. So another fascinating race in prospect here, and as we've documented, still plenty of battles to be settled over the course of the next half an hour. Well, in fact, 3 races here this weekend.
Really interesting to have Timo Jungling on the grid here for Campos, and to have him starting from 6th position, a former FIA Karting World Cup vice champion, a former RMC Grand Finals winner in the world of karting. This will be his car racing debut. Keep an eye on the 94 car from the 3rd row of the grid, but keep an eye on the front where Dries van Langendonk and Thomas Behrman will be going head-to-head for the lead into the first corner. We are racing for the final time this weekend, or for the first of the final weekend races in the Formula Winter Series, and Dries van Langendonk has done exactly what Dries has done all through the year. He's got a fabulous start, and Ethan Lennon has got a great start too. Thomas Behrman down then to 3rd place. The 46 of Ari Bansal in 4th, and getting tagged there by Timo Jungling into a spin goes Bansal, but he's brilliantly managed to slide that back around to the right direction. He didn't strictly rejoin in the way he was supposed to, the rule book there, but we'll have to wait and see whether that gets voted on, talked about in the race control in any capacity. Jungling remains in 6th place. Savinkov has moved up into 5th position. Lots going on behind Dries van Langendonk, but again, DVL knows when he needs to get a good start, and and he did exactly that there.
Well, disaster for Mansell, remember, third in the championship, only 9 points behind Thomas Behrman, so that was another one of those battles that we really were focusing in on in this race. So, another one off, that's the 11 car of Oscar Repetto through the gravel, doing his best to dig himself out. He's not the only one. Another car pointing the wrong way. We'll try and ID that car in a moment or two, but yeah, disaster for Mansell, dream start for Van Langenbach. Not only did he hold the lead off the line, but the fact that then Behrman and Ethan Lennon spent the first half a lap trading second position has allowed him to get away, except none of that matters because rather predictably the safety car is being scrambled.
Ian Krelling, I think, was the closest US Racing car to Repetto, and it didn't look like an US Racing machine, but actually the 62 is there. We just saw that in the previous shot, but it didn't look to me like an US Racing machine. We'll keep an eye on that. Noah Killian has not come through the second sector split, so I wonder if it could have been Noah. We are under safety car conditions then for the first time, and well, frankly, Andy, we have seen through the morning quite a lot of red flags, quite a lot of people taking trips to the gravel or to the runoff area, and that was the case in the Formula Winter Series qualifying as well. So we have this suspicion that there would be these safety car periods. I think for Dries van Langendonk this is going to be very much, I suppose, drills for safety car restarts, because I suspect that there's going to be more than one this weekend, and the smart money says Dries will be leading more than one as well.
Yes, I would not argue against that. He'll be a little disappointed to have lost the cushion that he built up halfway around that lap, but as you said, he's managed a few safety car restarts already this season. He knows what he's doing, and he will look to try and build that margin again. Of course, it's such a long main straight, though, that it does open up the opportunity for slipstreaming on that restart if you don't immediately pull a gap on the second place car. So we'll see exactly how he chooses to handle that. Where did Ari Bansel end up, by the way? I hear you asking. Well, 14th is the answer to that question. So Ari Bansel with a lot of work to do. Ari twice a winner this year. They were his only two appearances on the podium, remarkably. The wins that he had at Portimao and Aragon, the first race of the weekend at Aragon, last time out, his most recent podium visit, and they were both top step visits. That's coupled with quite a lot of top sort of half dozen finishing positions, even if they weren't podiums. A bit of consistency for Ari Bansel has put him into this fight for the vice champion spot, but that's fortunately taking a bit of a knock, as indeed did his car, on that opening corner of the race.
Yeah, that was a little bit of contact. We'll see if it's contact that has a cause for concern. There's unfortunately Noah Killian's car being recovered, the number 13 machine. The US Racing driver was in the wars, of course, at Aragon as well. A couple of instances of contact and damage. He'll be hoping for a clean run on Sunday in order to kind of leave the Formula Winter Series with good momentum, and in a lot of ways that's why this weekend is so critical, because frankly you need that boost at the end of the year. You want your good weekend at the end of the winter season to prepare you nicely for the summer. I just want to make a point quickly while it's frankly on my mind. Timo Jungling in the 94 car as a new driver for this weekend. He does not score points in the championship, nor does he block points in the championship. So with Jungling currently running 6th and Levi Arn currently running 7th, Arn would score points for P6. That also applies to the team's championship, as I understand it. So bear in mind that the Campos driver will not be scoring points for Campos in the race, and indeed anyone who's behind him from any of the other teams will be scoring position 1 greater than they will actually have on their timing screens. He is the only new driver for this weekend, the only first-time driver for this weekend, so it only applies to Timo Jungling.
Okay, so invisible as far as points are concerned, but very much likely to be a factor in these races, I think, isn't he? Running 6th position, held that grid position off the line, and Timo is really impressing this weekend. Campos, of course, a hugely experienced international single-seater racing team, so he's found a good home there, and fascinated to see what he can do over the weekend. A podium is not off the table for Timo Jungling on current evidence anyway. So lap 2 in the books behind the safety car. I would hope that this lap that we're beginning now will be the final safety car lap, at least of this safety car period. Dries van Langendonk will already have his attention turned towards that restart. When does he choose to accelerate? I suspect he'll want to go early rather than late, but needs to make sure, as I said, he gets that jump over Ethan Lennon and doesn't give Ethan the opportunity to get much of a slipstream down the main straight. Ethan, another driver, gunning for a first victory of the season. Of course, this is his first season in Formula Winter Series, but he is winless so far, has in fact the best finish of third. He's finished third twice this year, once last time at Aragon, once at Portimao, so already on course for a season best finish. But another driver very, very hungry for a race win. And if he's going to win this race, he'll have to get through our champion, and that will make it all the sweeter if he can achieve it.
And what a swing this result as it stands, this order as it stands, would be in the team's championship, with Rodin 1-2, Van Langendonk and Lennon, and Alexander Savinkov currently the only US Racing driver in the points. That is a big swing indeed. That would be 10 points for US Racing, the top two drivers of each team scoring points. That means that for Rodin it would be a 43-point total versus 10 for US Racing. That would be a very valuable day in the team's championship for the Kiwi flag team based in Surrey, UK. Safety car is in this lap, Andy. Let's see, another track, another new track to us for this year. What is the strategy for Van Langendonk here in terms of releasing the field?
Well, in the dry, of course, those final two corners are more or less flat out in a single-seater. In the wet, they are not. So I think there is definitely an argument to say go early and trust, if you are Dries van Langendonk, that you've got the speed through those final couple of corners to pull a gap on Ethan Lennon. He's backing the field up as we head into turn number 12, and the next two corners are those two high-speed 90-degree right-handers that bring us round to the end of the lap. Van Langendonk weaving around there, almost sort of trying to suggest to Ethan Lennon that he's not going to accelerate, but he very much did, and Lennon didn't really go with him, so that's exactly what I thought Langendonk would do, and for once I was correct, and look at the gap that gives him immediately.
Yeah, perfect execution there from Van Langendonk. Ethan Lennon will be watching the mirrors all the way down the straight then, with Behrman, with Slater behind. Langendonk weaving, as you often do, to break the slip. I'm not sure he really needs to with the gap he had, but Lennon is steadily closing just a little bit as they all mesmerisingly shimmy from left to right down the main straight. Slater there with a little bit of a lock-up as the rest of the field picks their spots very carefully for turn-in into the first corner. You see the iron trailing there. Oh, we have gravel. That was one of the AS Motorsport cars. That was Victor Poulsen going off the circuit, and Andre Rodriguez as well. I think we had Poulsen and Rodriguez. Rodriguez for Cram Motorsport having an off-track moment. But DVL, Dries van Langendonk, continues to lead the way. There's George Proudfoot-Nalder just behind Levian, so that's for 7th and 8th position. Those two are scrapping, and Levian holding on for now, but Proudfoot-Nalder looking racy there to the inside at turn number 5, and Levian goes off all on his own, just asking too much of the front axle, and following him there almost by osmosis was Theo Borenstein. Two Yenza cars off the circuit spraying gravel all over the exit of turn number 5, and Yenza loses 2 points paying positions as a result.
Oh, that is not an image going into the Yenza scrapbook, is it, at the end of the season? That was unfortunate. I just noticed actually that Theo had gone round the outside of Platon Kostin at the restart at turn 1, gained a position, but yeah, immediately lost quite a bit more than he had previously gained with that off-track excursion down at turn number 5. So tricky though, isn't it, in the wet, because the grippy side of the road, as we know, is the outside edge of the track, but that puts you very, very close to the edge of the road if it all goes wrong, and it all goes a little bit wrong there for Alexander Savinkov, who runs wide and almost rejoins, making contact there with George Proudfoot-Nalder, who really has benefited on this lap. George Proudfoot-Nalder was 8th at the line. I think that's 2 places gained at least.
Yeah, he's been making a very good effort. Meanwhile, Thomas Behrman under investigation for his starting procedure. Now, is that starting or restarting, I wonder? But all the same, he's got the microscope on him down at race control at the moment. Proudfoot-Nalder from 8th place to 6th then on that lap, and here comes the AKM car against the 94 of Jungling, and Samuel Ifrid tried to get up into the points here. He's to the inside of Costin. He's already in the points, actually in 9th place, but this is for P8. 97 runs off the track there onto the painted stuff, and you can see there Costin wanting to put almost no input through the throttle, through the brake, through the steering once he was off onto the painted stuff, and that's going to cost him against Ian Grayling as well. I think he'll be down to 10th place when we next see him. No, he remains in P9, but still suboptimal.
That is of some significance in the Teams Championship as well. Van Amersfoort Racing, remember, 3rd in the Teams Championship. They are a long shot, but with us Racing struggling in this one, that was a golden opportunity for them to get some points back, but it's not really happening, is it? Behrman 3rd, and now Costin on the fringes of the top 10. Jump start under investigation, I'm afraid, for the impressive Timo Jungling, who's into the top 5, but on his first standing start in the category, perhaps went a bit too early, and if that's, as I fear it might, doesn't go his way, that will take him well out of contention for a good result.
Yes, indeed. That will be a shame. It's often fairly cut and dry when a jump start is under investigation, but they'll look at all the data and every angle they can to determine whether any penalty is justified. There is a good battle going on here between Jungling and Proudford Nalda, but will it be for 5th place, for Jungling at least, if a penalty is handed down? Savinkov looking under threat here from Samuel Ifrid. I think that off-track moment may have slightly given Savinkov the heebie-jeebies, and now he is under firm pressure from the Crown driver Samuel Ifrid, who's really been impressing me this year, and he still doesn't know what he's going to do in the summertime.
No, he doesn't. Alexander Savinkov doesn't seem to know what the rear end of his car is doing on corner entry. Really fighting a lot of turn-in oversteer is the number 17 car. George Proudfoot Nalda, though, clearly has his car underneath him. He's up the inside of Jungling now, and this is for a position in the top 5. Couldn't quite get it done into turn 1, but George Proudfoot Nalda continues to charge forwards on another very impressive outing from the nearly man of Ginetta Juniors last year. Really should have won a race last year, George. Came very, very close. Came within a corner of winning at Donington Park in dominant fashion, only for his engine to blow. A very un-Ginetta-like thing with one turn remaining. He was several seconds ahead of the rest of the field, and heartbreakingly fell short of the win. But now in his transition to single-seater racing, he is proving the talent that he has. He's putting all sorts of pressure onto Jungling. There was almost a gap to the inside at turn 5, but sensibly, I think, he backed out of that one.
Yes, Timo Jungling has a 5-second penalty for a full start. That's taken less than a lap to come down the pike, so that was a very quick investigation. All the same, Proudfoot Nalda is going to want to get past the 94 before Savinkov and Ifrid arrive on his gearbox. That's why he's looking to the inside here at the unlikely overtaking zone up at turn 9, and a bit of oversteer there. He did very well to catch that and not end up tagging the side of Jungling. Proudfoot Nalda is trying his best to be on the move. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Dries van Langendonk very much on the move. I remind you, we're not yet halfway through the race. We've already had a safety car restart. We're only a couple of laps post-safety car restart, and already the gap will be up over 3 seconds when they come across the line next time by. Samuel Ifrid under, well, continuing to scrutinise Alexander Savinkov, who runs just a wheel onto the gravel there. That will have cost him a bit of momentum. Ifrid trying to find the wet line around the penultimate corner. Not going to succeed there, and he's now going to be under pressure from a couple of the other drivers behind. And Chiara Batigue off the circuit. That may well hand the lead in the female trophy to Ginevra Panzeri.
Well, except Ginevra was already in front of Batigue, actually. That had just changed hands, I think, last time by. Here comes Proudfoot Nalda, nosing ahead now of Jungling on the outside line at turn 1. That should be the preferred line. It's a dangerous place to be. So easy to tangle wheels. He climbs the curb, gets the place, and slides across the nose of Timo Jungling to make sure he's on the preferred line into turn 3. That really took some doing, though. George Proudfoot Nalda had to really fight his way by. Now he's in clean air, though. I reckon he might well have the pace to get away, and just in the nick of time, because as you mentioned, Adam, all of this queue of cars behind, we're getting closer and closer by the corner.
Yes, they are, and it's really good to see These guys dicing for every points place. Of course, everyone wants to be that one spot higher in the championship if they possibly can. And for Samuel Ifrid, it's also a matter of wanting to try and hold on to vice championship status in the rookie class. Ethan Lennon currently running second overall, only 6 points back from Samuel Ifrid coming into this weekend in the rookie standings. So Ifrid is going to need to climb his way back up into the top 5 really to have any hope of trying to win the rookie vice championship this season. The 97 car of Boston then holding off the threat from Ifrid for the time being. It got them past, and then Ifrid was trying to fight back, but for now they remain in station. And look at Harry Bansell down there in 10th place. He will be very disappointed, I think, to have quite so many cars ahead of him.
Well, yes, except he is at least making good progress through the order. He's into the points now and ahead of his teammate Arjen Kraling. I just saw this kicking off in the background. That is another US Racing car, Ludovico Busso, pointing the wrong way. There was a little bit of side-by-side action at the back of shot that I'd seen, and unfortunately Ludovico ended up coming out of that worse for wear. But yes, Harry Bansell now ahead of his teammate Arjen Kraling, which means that he is now the second highest placed US Racing car, and he is now responsible for getting some points in their team's championship battle, and I think might have the pace to gain some more ground before the race is done.
Yeah, Ifrid and Bansell side by side. Will Bansell make it work around the outside line? It's often liable there to get squeezed out, but he manages to be laser on the brakes and get cleanly past Ifrid on the first corner, or on the run down the braking zone for the first corner. Ifrid does look to be slightly leaking pace at the moment. He's going to have to be careful not to fall outside of the points altogether. Ludovico Busso has moved his car and then seemingly had a bit of a problem. He's now trying to at least clear it away, I think. Yes, the marshal telling him to put it slightly more out of harm's way than there on the third last corner entry point, and hopefully that means that yellow flags alone can handle the job. We see there the 62 wiggling around there underneath its driver. That is, of course, one of the many US Racing cars. That is Arjen Kraling dropping through the field as well. Both he and Ifrid, I think, maybe have a slightly more dry-geared setup, because both of them seem to be struggling just a little bit. Vittorio Orsini off the circuit in the 88 car. He takes a visit to the gravel. Speaking of gravel visitors, we saw Theo Borenstein on the move. He's all the way up to 16th position again, having had to recover from his gravel excursion just a few laps ago. All of the Enza cars are in the latter half of the top 20 at the moment, 15th, 16th, 17th and 20th. They would have been hoping for some points, but it's a long way away from them at the moment.
Yeah, track conditions look really, really unpleasant right now, don't they? It is not fully wet. It's certainly not that close to being fully dry. It is greasy, and that is what no driver really, truly enjoys driving in these conditions, because the tyres aren't really working as well as they'd like them to. There's not a lot of surface water for the wet Pirelli rubber to cut through, and the car just almost feels like it's floating, sliding across the surface of the road, and I think that's why we're seeing quite a few drivers slipping off the road. Harry Bansell, having been off the road here on the opening lap of the race, tries to gain a position there at the expense of Platon Costin, not quite able to do so. That's a very late lunge up the inside, and near contact between Pedro Lima and Leon Headforce. That's over 12th position, and Headforce just about keeps the Campos Racing car ahead for now.
Dries van Langendonk almost 6 seconds clear at the front of the field in this race. He already holds the record now for most victories in a Formula Winter Series season, making it 8 last time out at Aragon. As we see there, the number 94 of Jungling under pressure now from Costin, from Bansell. Bansell to the inside of Costin there for 8th position. Harry Bansell on the charge back up the field, and he's working pretty hard to try and get back into the top half dozen or so. He's got 2 more targets to get there. Of course, he wants to try and hold on to the vice championship contendership there in that battle with Thomas Behrman. Those two fighting it out coming out of Aragon. Of course, it was the British driver just about clear. Bansal knows he needs to try and avoid being massively outscored by Behrman, even here in this first race.
Yeah, it's damage limitation for Bansal, isn't it? He's going the right way about it. To the outside now of Jungling. This is for on-track position, but on corrected times, he's already ahead of Jungling, who, remember, has that 5-second penalty to be served or to be added on to his race time at the end of the race. But you can just see how much more grip and confidence Ari Bansal has than the cars around him. The trouble is there is one definitively quicker line in the wet, and as long as the car in front of you occupies that line, it can be very difficult without driving through them to find a way ahead. Ooh, someone else in the gravel. Now that is a Yenza car, I suspect. I can't see who it is because of their close proximity to the barriers. We'll try and pick that out in a moment. Here comes Bansal, meanwhile. Drafts up alongside. Timo Jungling gets his nose ahead, gets his whole car ahead, in fact, long before they reach the braking zone at turn 1. Timo thinks about the inside line in the braking zone, but decides against it. And Ari Bansal is now on track up to 7th. And Jungling just can't get a moment to catch his breath, can he?
Unfortunately, a second excursion to the gravel for Theo Borenstein up there at turn 12, as Samuel Ifrid there runs very, very wide indeed at turn 2, turn 3 even, and that is going to cost him positions. He only just now gets to rejoin the circuit, and he does so behind Arjen Kreling, thus down in 11th place. So that's him out of the points.
Safety car.
Safety car is out, so that is going to be a second restart, and perhaps a good opportunity for someone like Ari Bansal, who's now up to 7th place. In fact, both he and his teammate Alexander Savinkov strike me as potential danger men now. And what about George Proudfoot-Nalder? We know he's got that racecraft together. We've seen him adapting to this F4 car very quickly after his first weekend in the machine last time out at Aragon. I would not rule him out for a podium from 5th place.
Definitely not. I said that in clean air I'd be interested to see what pace he had. Well, on the previous lap, he was 8/10 quicker than Alfie Slater ahead of him. That gap was about 2.5 seconds. It will not be 2.5 seconds anymore. Granted, he will lose a couple of laps of green flag racing here, but he's definitely got the pace. He's proven that he knows how to overtake in these conditions, and George Proudfoot-Nalder will definitely be wanting to try and gain at least another position or two before the end of this race. George Proudfoot-Nalder hunting for a first podium. In fact, hasn't yet had a top 5. He had a couple of top 10 finishes on debut last time at Motorland Aragon. Hasn't yet had a top 5. He's already on course for that. Can he break into the top 3 before the end of the race, I wonder? That's all sort of immaterial, really, for Dries van Langendonk, who was, I think, about 7 seconds up the road when the safety car was scrambled, and I'm sure is feeling pretty confident that he can start to build that sort of cushion again once we go green flag racing.
Yeah, Ethan Lennon will be very keen to try and get a win, but I don't think he'll do so at the expense of an awkward dinner with Dries later on in the Rodin Hospitality. So we'll keep an eye on how that unfolds. Of course, for Rodin as well, that 1-2 finish in the championship will be imperative. I know that Dick, the team manager, actually isn't here today. I'm sure he'll be texting from home where he's attending a wedding saying, just be careful, everybody. I want 3 cars in good condition when I arrive back on Sunday morning.
Well, and important that they score the points, isn't it? They've got those top 2 positions at the moment, and yeah, they are really wanting to try and get another good Rodin result. There is the Theo Borenstein car being pulled out of the way. The optimist in me says that maybe by the end of this lap the track could be clear and we might be able to go racing once again. They were able to get that recovery operation underway quite swiftly, and the incident should hopefully have been dealt with before too much longer. Don't forget as well, we've still got this investigation hanging over the head of Thomas Behrman, haven't we, for a start procedure infringement. That sort of tells me it's not a jump start, it's not necessarily an out of position start, but possibly one of those really awkward ones where the car was up on the jacks a bit too late, or they were changing tyres too late, something procedural like that, which maybe isn't quite so black and white, and may well not be decided until after the race.
Yes, that is one to keep tabs on. Of course, he is the leading Van Amersfoort racing driver, and I feel like it's worth noting, while we're on the topic of Van Amersfoort, only a trio of VAR cars here this weekend. No Alexander Ruta after the hand injury that he sustained last time at Aragon. He was actually in surgery yesterday, I believe. and we wish him well as he recovers, getting ready for the summer season. We hope to see you back in the paddock very soon, Alexander. And Ruta, of course, a race winner this season. I'm sure he'll be annoyed not to be here racing at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, as we see here some interesting lines on the run down to turn 11 as they look for some grip and maybe some pickup out there on the far extremities of the runoff area.
Well, looking for the little bit of standing water that we still have,
true,
I think, to cool those tyres down. And well, is that exceeding track limits? I don't think they're monitoring track limits there, are they? So I suspect they will get away with that. It was Ari Bansal who led the charge to drive off track there. And yeah, he is clearly, as I said at the start of the race, making sure he's got the rubber underneath him at the end in these slightly drying conditions. Theo Borenstein's car actually wasn't that close to a point of safety as I hoped it would be. So one more lap behind the safety car incoming. We will go racing again. It may be a 2-lap sprint to the finish, I suspect, and yeah, that's not terrible news if you're Dries van Langendonk. The sooner he sees the checkered flag, the better. But for those battling behind, that's enough time for things to happen, isn't it? And I look forward to seeing who is the aggressor when we do go racing again.
Yeah, that is going to be compelling viewing. I think it'll be 2 laps, won't it? So that's going to be exciting stuff. Of course, plus 1 lap in all of the FWS races. So a little bit extra to handle for Dries van Langendonk. We've seen it before that drivers have massively stalled out their return to racing speed to make it just 1 lap to go, but unless it's a very slow lap around behind the safety car, I think Dries has no choice but to do 2 more racing laps. Ethan Lennon will be watching on with interest in a race where he could well claim a provisional second place in the rookie standings. Not a definitive one. He won't lock the championship in by any stretch of the imagination, but he is currently certainly on course to surpass Samuel Ifrid on that championship standings. Ifrid currently to score 8 points, Ethan Lennon to score 18, and so it will be a big swing in favour of Lennon as the safety car is confirmed to come in this lap. The safety car will now pick up a little bit of pace, I imagine, to get us around as quickly as possible. And then it will all be on Dries once again to control the field for one last restart.
Yeah, well, they crossed the line with about 3 minutes 40 left on the clock, and the last lap behind the safety car was 3 minutes 35. So if Dries really does decide to just hold back on the restart, he could eke this safety car period out. I don't know whether he wants to. He probably does quite enjoy every lap that he gets the opportunity to turn out there, but if he did want to ensure this was a 1-lap sprint to the flag, I think it might be I'm getting my maths wrong here, aren't I?
Yeah, 90 seconds for the last 2 corners is ambitious.
Yes, I realised when you were looking at me funny, I was saying something silly, not for the first time. So yes, it will be 2 laps then, with plenty of time left to complete the race. Although it was a very slow lap last time by, so anyway, restart incoming, Adam.
It is restart incoming. 1 minute 50 seconds plus 1 lap on the cards. And well, we'll see. Will Roden instruct him to try something a little bit different? Perhaps it would be beneficial, of course, especially if Alfie Slater can predict the start well up against Thomas Behrman. He does the polar opposite of what we were speculating, and he goes early. Dries van Langendonk, I think, caught Ethan Lennon out a little bit there, if anything, so Behrman could have an opportunity, but ditto Slater right on the gearbox of the orange and black Van Amersfoort racing car. And again, let's not rule out George Prout-Nalder from 5th position. Van Langendonk comes across the line with 0.7 of a second over Lennon, but it's a lot more uncertain for Thomas Behrman, or rather for Ethan Lennon, with Thomas Behrman behind. Lennon goes defensive early there, going towards the first corner. Behrman's going to have to work it around the outside, but in these conditions, that might be a fairly easier task than normal. Indeed, the momentum with Behrman, but he goes off the track there. He's going to have to rejoin on the other side of those batons on the outside of the exit. And did he come back through there in 2nd place? Yes, he did. Oh, I'm not sure how that one's going to look.
Yeah, and closer to Dries van Langendonk than he was going into the corner as well. He is now backing off and redressing the situation. Smart call there from Behrman, and he drops back down into 3rd position. There to the outside, though, goes Proudfoot now to continue continuing this forward charge and challenging now for fourth. He gets his nose cut off slightly there by Alfie Slater, but George Proudfoot-Nalder making his intentions known. He looks quick, he's got the car underneath him, he's good in these conditions clearly, and that was Youngling, wasn't it? Off behind, yes it was. Can he dig his way back out of the gravel? He will. He already had a 5-second penalty for a jump start to contend with, but sadly his track position has fallen by the wayside now too.
It has, and we should keep half an eye as well on the female trophy battle where Batig and Panzeri were in tandem coming across the line after the safety car restart. So Chiara Batig may yet salvage a win in that class. Can Panzeri keep the car wide? The AS Motorsport machine, another moment for Vittorio Orsini. He's had a tricky race so far. As we look through the field there, we see that AKM machine of George Proudfoot-Nalder. Nalder has been really impressive so far. I think AKM Motorsports mechanics will be smiling, especially those working on that car, saying, look at it, it's hooked up today in his hands. Panzeri and Batig there were fighting it out just in the back of shot. We'll see the red and white car, the Red Bull car making contact. That was Panzeri and Batig into each other just before the final lap begins, and Batig's hopes of a female trophy win fall by the wayside. Ethan Lennon making corners where there aren't any there. The slalom, it's a bit like the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez when NASCAR went there, snaking between the lines, and Lennon holding on to Behrman through the first corner. A bit of an oversteer moment there for Savinkov from 7th place as well. Behrman looking racy, but Lennon seems to just about have enough to hold on.
Yes, for the time being, but still the best part of a lap to go. Dries van Langendonk's just on another planet, isn't he? Look at the lead that he's got, 2.3 seconds, and gained 8/10 on them in the first sector alone on this lap. That's only 3 corners. I don't really know how he does it, but that's been the story of the season, hasn't it, with DVL. The battles behind those still raging on. Behrman trying to get back on terms with Lennon, and George Proudfoot-Nalder looking for any opportunity to get alongside Alfie Slater and steal this 4th position away. He's got Harry Bansal coming up behind him. Now Bansal, remember, has been really pacey in this race too, desperately trying to claw his way back through the order. Major drama though for Thomas Behrman, a 25-second penalty for that start procedure infringement. That is massive for his hopes of 2nd place in the championship, and it doesn't help VAR in the team's championship either.
Not in the slightest. They'll be very close to being eliminated from mathematical contention. In fact, I think they will be eliminated from mathematical contention from the championship in the team standings. That is a huge development, with Rodin set to score 43 points and the VAR team set to score 6. I do think they will be out of the championship hunt with only a cumulative 68 points-ish left to go. Van Langendonk, meanwhile, leading the way, turns through the final corner. DVL does it again and extends the record for most wins in an FWS season. Our champion in both the rookie and overall standings wins by 4.2 seconds. Lennon holds off Behrman from Slater. Proudfoot-Nalder finishing 5th. 6th position for Bansal, and there you see Behrman falling through the field as that 25-second penalty kicks in on the timing screen. A really unfortunate penalty there for Behrman. They will have checked that procedure and they looked at it for most of the race, so it's a pretty ironclad decision, and unfortunately it takes him well out of the running. We referenced Panzeri. She finished 19th place. Batig finished 22nd. So Ginevra Panzeri wins the female trophy standings, but an all-rookie top 3 and all-Rodin top 3 with Behrman's penalty. Van Langendonk, Lennon, Slater. Only the top 2 drivers from each team are thrown into the manufacturer points tally. But what a start to the weekend for Rodin Motorsport. DVL, Lennon and Slater lock out the podium in the rookie standings, lock out the podium in the overall standings. With the rookie and overall places being the same, we could do 2 podiums at one shot, but I do suspect we'll do separate ceremonies anyway. George Proudfoot-Nalder with 4th position. I believe that is the best AKM finish of the season so far, so that is good going indeed from the driver, as Andy alluded to, graduating from Ginetta Juniors. The Aussie racer has put on quite the show in his short tenure here in the Formula Winter Series. But for Van Langendonk, his domination only continues, and you can tell he's having fun with it now, drifting there around the final corners. Thomas Behrman ultimately classified only 23rd after that penalty. Your top 10, your point scorers will be Van Langendonk, Lennon and Slater, with George Crawford-Nuller in 4th. Ari Bansel up to 5th position at the end of the race there, finishing ahead of Savinkov and Ian Kraling. So Us Racing will score points only for 5th and 6th places, which is 18 points up against the 43 that will be scored by Rodin. So that is a huge push towards the championship from the team based in Farnham. And we'll see whether that's definitive. Well, it won't be definitive for race 1, but it puts them in a very good position to potentially seal the team's championship in race number 2. The rest of the top 10, 2 Van Amersfoort cars, Platon Costin and Pedro Lima, with Samuel Ifrid rounding out the top 10. He also scores 10 points in the rookie championship equation, while Ethan Lennon scores 18, and that will put them with Lennon just 2 points clear of Ifrid going into the next race. So that will be, again, a very tight battle to keep an eye on, the rookie vice championship scrap. We see DVL, Alfie and Lennon sharing in their spoils. I think they'll be encouraging team manager Dick to go to more relatives' weddings based on that performance. Top 3 lockout for the Rodin Motorsport team. And the familiar McLaren driver development program colours of Dries van Langendonk have made an appearance at the top step of the podium now 9 times this season. What a season DVL is having. 4 races in a row, incidentally, that the Belgian has won at this stage. And that is very impressive stuff. 4 races in a row, 9 race victories total. In fact, my apologies. It's 9 rookie wins. I was looking at the rookie column. That's my fault. 6 race wins coming into this weekend, so 7 total with that result. I thought it sounded a bit too good to be true. Too much data in front of me. DVL then with win number 6 of the season. And that will be number 7 of the season, and that is again extending the record. We've previously only ever had 4 rounds of the Formula Wind Series. We're now out to 5, so he does have more races to work with, but he still broke the record last time out at Aragon, so he's merely breaking new ground at this point to see quite how definitive the record is for future competitors in the Formula Wind Series, how tall the order will be. Thomas Behrman will drop behind Ari Bansel in the vice championship battle as well by 1 point. So it was 129 to 120 coming into this race. Bansel with a 5th place finish will get 10 points. So Ari Bansel will be back into 2nd place in the championship. He'll be on 130 to Behrman's 129. Dries is well over 100 points clear of that scrap. But it's certainly not finished yet for the vice championship either. Izzy Browning, meanwhile, has caught up with Dries. Another winner's interview for DVL. I think those two know each other quite well at this point.
You know, it's funny you say that, Adam, because I literally just said to Dries as we were coming out, I'm running out of things to say to you because we've spoken to each other so many times by this point. Title 1, but you're not done yet, and you like winning, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a great weekend so far, especially for the team at 1, 2, 3, which we needed in the fight for the team's championship. So I hope to be helping out on that. Obviously, the pressure for me is a little bit off, but yeah, I mean, the work and also in the wet, we've always been quick. But yeah, it's just been amazing, and everyone's done a really good job.
And I know your team manager's not actually here today because he's at a wedding, but I'm sure he'll be watching. If he's had the chance to see that race, he'll be mighty proud of that. It's a big step towards taking the team's title. How much do you want to do that to give back to this team?
A lot. Obviously, I haven't been with the team for that long, but yeah, it's like my second home. I love working with the team, and yeah, they all deserve it so much. So yeah, I hope to be clinching it for them.
And let's just talk about the race quickly, because it was well managed, well controlled. I mean, good start, good safety car restarts as well. And between the two safety cars, you built yourself quite the gap. You've got a lot of pace around here.
Yeah, I didn't expect the pace to be that good. Obviously, we only had one session in the wet so far, but yeah, the race pace has just been mega. We'll see what tomorrow brings. Obviously, it's going to be dry, but yeah, I mean, the work's been great and the pace has been mega. So yeah, really happy.
So that's your pace in the wet. Well, we'll see tomorrow what the pace in the dry is as well. But yes, congratulations once again. Incredible job. I mean, I know you've got loads of family and you've got Warren from McLaren here as well. I do have to ask this. Of course, it is an F1 track. Is it a little bit more special to take the win here? Obviously, you've got your sights set on F1, backed by an F1 team.
Yeah, I mean, a win's a win, but obviously it's great driving on tracks like these. Obviously, it learns you a lot. And yeah, it's safe to say I've been enjoying the Spanish tracks. I'm going to miss them over the British season, but yeah, it's been great and always a special feeling.
Well, congratulations once again. Go celebrate with the team. A win is a win, and he's done it again.
So the race is in the books in the Formula Winter Series. Dries van Langendonk does it in Barcelona. Why do I get the feeling we're going to say that more than once over the years? So let's take a look at highlights for race number 1. First race of the weekend in the Formula Winter Series. Good starts from a few drivers. A suspiciously good start from the driver of the number 94 car. That unfortunately would be a penalty, a jump start penalty for Youngling in the Campos Racing machine. Ari Bansel being looped around there after being tagged by the 94, and the safety car would be required after just a lap of racing with the gravel and cars strewn around the place. Unfortunately, including Noah Killian. He was the one that caused the safety car period. Couldn't get back out from the gravel. Andre Rodriguez and Poulsen going off the circuit. Levian going off the circuit. And Theo Borenstein following suit. Unfortunate scenes for the Yenza Motorsport team. The Swiss outfit will be looking for better in race 2 and race 3. Youngling was putting on a great defensive drive, but it was an even better offensive drive from George Proudfoot-Nalder, who was working his way through the field with aplomb. Panzeri and Batigue had a moment together down at turn 12, and it would be the last time we see both parties getting together out there on the circuit. The 94 and the 55 continuing to fight for what was 5th position at this point in the race, but by that stage we already knew that the 94 would have a 5-second penalty. Ludovico Busso tagged into a spin. Ari Bansel making his way up the field after his full 360, and Theo Borenstein with a second and final visit to the gravel, triggering another safety car period in a frenetic 30-minute race here in the Formula Winter Series. Samuel Ifrid trying to go around the outside of Costin. He would cost himself positions as a result of that. Safety car out to retrieve Borenstein before the green flags flew with just 2 laps of racing left to go. The 94 car going well off the track, rather negating that 5-second penalty. Chiara Batigue and Panzeri collide. Batigue getting the worst of it. Panzeri therefore winning the female trophy, while Dries van Langendonk won the rookie standings and headed off a 1-2-3 for Rodin Motorsport. Van Langendonk, Leonard and Slater put on a dominant performance for Rodin Motorsport in race 1 of the weekend in the Formula Winter Series. So then, the race is in the books, and DVL 4.2 seconds clear of Lennon. Alfie Slater in 3rd position. George Proudfoot-Nalder in 4th place for AKM. Ari Bansel in 5th. Alexander Savinkov in 6th place. Ian Trailing in 7th. Platon Costin in 8th. Pedro Lima 9th, and Samuel Ifrid in 10th position. Leon Headforce in 11th place. Levian for Yenza Motorsport in 12th. Chartier for AS Motorsport in 13th. Repetto 14th. Max Kammerlander 15th. Zazov in 16th, Silkunas in 17th place, Rodriguez, Panzeri and Poulsen rounding out the top 20. The rest of the finishing order, Tino Jungling in 21st place, Chiara Batig in 22nd, Thomas Behrman 23rd, Vittorio Orsini in 24th place, Eric Poulsen 25th, Theo Bornstein in 26th, and Ludovico Busso in 27th. Noah Killian not registered as even taking the start, of course, having not completed the first lap of the race. Let's go down to Andy McEwen with the Formula podiums.
Well, another enthralling edition of the Formula Winter Series concludes here at Barcelona. We're ready to get our drivers onto the podium, and we start as always with the best female trophy finisher, Ginevra Panzeri. And Ginevra runs and jumps onto the top step of the podium with a beaming smile on her face. What a battle that was with Chiara Batig, and she managed to come out just about on top after that dramatic late race contact between the two of them, and it's Ginevra Panzeri who claims the victory for AS Motorsport in the female trophy. She poses for the cameras down below, and she is very, very happy, rightly so, with that class win in the female trophy. Congratulations to Ginevra, I should say, who beat Chiara Batig to the female trophy victory. And now we're very handily able to combine our rookie and overall podiums, because it was once again a trio of rookies who lock out the top 3 positions. Third place in both rookies and overall, Alfie Slater. It is Alfie's 3rd overall podium, his 5th rookie podium of the season. Second position also for Rodin Motorsport, Ethan Lennon. An awful lot to celebrate for Rodin, a 3rd overall podium for Ethan and his best finish of the season. It is, though, a 6th overall win, a 9th rookie category win for our 2026 champion, Dries van Langendonk. And Rodin celebrate the top 3 finish, a top 3 lockout in Formula Winter Series. They are joined now by their team representative, Alfie from Rodin Motorsport, who heads out onto an all Rodin Motorsport podium. Now then, it's time for the national anthem of the winning driver. Dries van Langendonk claims a 6th win of the Formula Winter Series season, and for the 6th time will receive the winner's trophy as he continues this dominant run of form in the Formula Winter Series. The Belgian driver for Rodin Motorsport with a fantastic record in the 2026 season. And what a result that was for Rodin, a crucial one in the Teams Championship as well. And the Rodin team very much enjoying the celebrations at the end of an entertaining first race of the weekend. We now, though, turn our attention to GT Racing, the GT4 Winter Series cars, and lots of them are already on the grid, and in amongst them is Izzy Browning.
Yes, indeed. Welcome back down to the grid for the second race today, the GT4s. Well, the title may have been wrapped up last weekend in Aragon, but this grid has doubled in size, and this weekend we also welcome back Mackenzie Cresswell, last year's GT4 champion as well. Well, on pole position it is going to be the number 11. They may have already sealed the title, but they are not done yet. And I think one thing to mention importantly is that it gives them a real chance to see where they stack up against such a competitive grid. Lots of very good entries this weekend, and they're going to be alongside the number 77 Elite McLaren. Elite, we welcome them back to the grid as well. Of course, they won the title last year with Mackenzie Cresswell, but this weekend they have got 2 cars, and this car alongside the number 11 will be driven by Harry Reynolds, and it's great to have him join our grid for the first time. One thing to mention though, it has just started raining. It wasn't raining earlier, but I have felt a couple of drops on my head, so we'll keep an eye on that over the rest of the weekend and over the rest of the day. Indeed, we are expecting better weather tomorrow, but it is going to be an interesting race ahead of us. Here is the number 11, Joel Mesh will be piloting that car. You can just see Enrico further on the other side, just about to leave the grid, but that is our front row. And then we come to the second row, where we also welcome back a familiar face to us of Charlie Hart, and Charlie Hart will be in the number 78. Now, if you were with us last year in the GT4 Winter Series, you will know that he was driving with Rafa Racing by Racelab, came third overall in the championship, went on to do GT4 European, and he is back this weekend and back with Elite Motorsport, who he drove in the Ginetta Junior Championship with. So great to welcome back Charlie to the grid. Now, I would try and dive in with some drivers, but unfortunately when it does rain, these drivers don't want to talk to us. They've got lots of electricals inside that vehicle and they do not want to get them wet. But I just want to point out a final car, the number 33. Now, this is an AM entry up here in amongst it with the pros. That will be Daniel Blickler, of course, reigning AM champion in the GT4 European Series. A hugely competitive grid, and this is going to be an exciting race. Boys, over to you in commentary. The GT4 Winter Series with its largest grid of the season. We welcome back the defending champion, or rather the 2025 champion, to the 2026 grid. The new anointed champions of the GT4 Winter Series out on the circuit, and it will be SR Motorsport's Joel Mesh on pole position for this race. Harry Reynolds alongside him. Harry Reynolds, we're excited to see him on the grid. Charlie Hart in an elite McLaren. He was in a Racelab McLaren last year. He's now friends rather than foes with his co-driver Mackenzie Cresswell this weekend. Daniel Blickler, good to see him again for WNS Motorsport entering the AM class. Alan Gabay is here in the WNS Motorsport Porsche Cayman. Tim Horrell alongside him, making it 4th, 5th and 6th, all WNS Motorsport cars. BWT Mooker Motorsports Marius Schmid, graduating from the world of BMW E36 3 Series single make racing. He is starting 7th alongside another WNS car. 4 of them on the grid this weekend. Joachim Bolting, who in slippery conditions we tend to favour. Tom Pappenberg for CV Performance by JP Motorsport in 9th, alongside Robert Cronin. The Cronin brothers making their first appearance since Portimao. August Macbeth making his first appearance in any race for 5 years. The American racer making his return. He is alongside Ravi Ramyid on row number 6. Row number 7, Matthias Fereisel for Senkia Motorsports alongside Alexander Bobrovs and the Team BRT Mercedes, which we are told has slick tyres on it. The only driver to have made that roll of the dice. 15th and 16th, Marco Reinbold for XR Racing, Helga Tam for East Racing Motorsport, Mark Kempster for Greystone in 17th alongside Alex Wendt for SMC, although I don't think the SMC cars should be out there. SR Motorsport by Schnitzler Willi Kühne in 19th, Clemens Drexel in 20th position, Thilo Goss in 21st. And then the 16 NM Racing team, unfortunately the car not taking the start, I don't think. In fact, yes, it is going to be there. Not sure which of the two drivers is taking the start. That information hasn't come up on my screen yet, but after not qualifying, I think, in that car, the 16 is out there towards the back of the grid. Team VRT's Alexander Bobrovs is off the circuit. He's had damage there. He's hit the wall, and you see there the safety car staying out, so we're not going to go to green flag
now, and the reason being that car is stranded, and I think it hit the wall on the slicks.
Yeah, well, I was about to say, if they're on slick tyres, then I can imagine that wasn't a particularly enjoyable outlap or green flag lap for Alexander's, and yeah, unfortunately it would appear that he has run out of grip and found a concrete wall, and that could have done quite a bit of damage to the Mercedes AMG. It also does quite a bit of damage to his AM Championship aspirations. That was one of the classes still up for grabs in GT4 Winter Series. He arrived here at Barcelona 18 points behind championship leader Joachim Bolting in the AM class, who we know is a bit of a wet weather specialist, and they clearly felt that the only way, well, the best way maybe to beat Joachim in this race was to take a gamble on tyres. This, though, shows just how badly that worked out. Crunch into the wall, lots of damage done to the right front corner, so far back from the rest of the field as well.
Yeah.
I noticed there was a big gap behind, or sort of halfway through the grid. That is why, so he was struggling already, and then things got even worse.
Yeah, I didn't see the SMC car towards the back of the queue, and I thought that maybe meant it was a non-starter. It turned out they were just that far behind because Bobrovs was really struggling on the slicks. They made a similar call at Portimao and it paid dividends. That was an AM win for Alexander's Bobrovs. I just guess they decided to see if lightning would strike twice. Of course, we heard Izzy on the grid say that there were some spots of rain down there, and that could have been a factor as well. I think it was only very light and very brief that we had a couple of spots of rain, but all the same, clearly, case study there from Alexander's Bobrovs. Not yet.
Definitely not yet, and that is a very costly decision ultimately for them. So that doesn't necessarily take the AM Championship battle off the table. Of course, it all depends how Joachim Bolting does in this race. He'll be starting his WNS Motorsport Porsche Cayman from 8th on the grid. But we also have the Pro-Am Championship battle, which I'm sure has already been documented as before the cars left the grid. Rami Rammeed and Charlie Robertson on 162 points, 14 points clear of Billy Kuna and Cedric Fuchs. Well, early advantage to Les Pasbian Venu's BMW squad. They out-qualified the SR Motorsport Mercedes quite heavily. 12th on the grid for Rammeed, 19th for Billy Kuna, that's now 18th, but of course within the class, that is, third in class for the Les Pasbian Venu pairing, 5th in Pro-Am for SR Motorsport. That's really the other sort of major plot that we're going to see develop over the course of the 3 races.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of difficult to make big ground in any of the classes, really, without there being a DNF factor, which is exactly what's happened, of course, for Joachim Bolting in the AM title consideration with Alexander Bobrovs off the circuit. This time then we will go to racing. Lights out on the safety car, and it will be Joel Mesh against Harry Reynolds on the run to the first corner. Keep an eye on Charlie Hart from 3rd position. What about Daniel Blickler? Could he be another AM class spoiler up there in the overall proceedings? The lights go out. We're racing in the GT4 Winter Series, and it looks like a good start from Mesh. I think he's got his nose already, whole car already, ahead of Harry Reynolds. Reynolds might get swallowed up here because to his inside is his teammate Charlie Hart. To his outside is Daniel Blickler in the WNS number 31 car. He just about outbrakes everybody to retain second and get a nose to the inside at turn 2 for the lead. He surely didn't have the grip on the inside. No, he didn't. Joel Mesh holds on to the race lead, but a statement of intent very early on there from Harry Reynolds.
Yes, indeed. So there was also a close moment further back for Joachim Bolting, who had tried the outside line at turn 1 to no one's surprise and had to really back out of an ever-closing door. But they're all cleanly through the first couple of corners. Side by side there to the outside goes Alan Gabai in the blue and black Porsche Cayman, looking to try and take 4th position, but not quite ultimately able to make that move for now. Off has gone the 73 Cayman. That is Helga Tam in the East Racing Motorsport car. That seemed to have a little bit of damage done to the rear diffuser, but thankfully gets back on road as Gabai does now move potentially into 3rd position around the outside line, where seemingly the grip still is. Not quite ahead of Charlie Hart, though. He keeps the McLaren ahead for now.
For now, let's see how this one unfolds. Interesting racing that we've seen so far. There is the 75 Race Labber back in the GT4 Winter Series, and that was Cronin there just keeping an eye on Tom Pappenberg. Oh, look at that from Harry Reynolds. We expected him to be a bit of a dynamite kid, and sure enough, he's already up to the lead, but back up the inside goes Joel Mesh. That's now the outside for turn 12. Oh, but Reynolds too deep. Right in front of the pack, he spins around. They part the seas. He takes the decision to move to the outside. That was fairly well done there by Harry Reynolds, but just asking too much, I think, at the front axle, and I think trying potentially to squeeze Joel out a bit as well, but just carrying too much speed.
And that is why we see drivers going nowhere near the apex of most of these corners in these conditions. There's just next to no grip on the inside line, and he understeered straight into Joel Mesh's Mercedes. Exactly the same thing happened behind, actually, between Alan Gabay and Charlie Hart, with the Porsche sort of drifting over into the McLaren and losing a position to Marius Schmid in the BWT Motorsport Mercedes, which is up into third position now. So a lot of drivers trying to make things happen on that opening lap, but finding that, again, unless you're on the outside, the grippier outside line, it's very, very difficult to make the overtakes stick. So Joel Mesh then leads reasonably uncontested now by 2.7 seconds. Tim Horrell leads in Pro-Am 5th position there, the black and red Porsche, who also benefited from some of those lap 1 skirmishes quite nicely. And Jürgen Bolting holds the lead in Am after a dramatic first lap of racing.
Yeah, I think Mesh will be fairly relieved that he hasn't got Harry Reynolds in his mirrors or in his side window anymore after that first lap of racing. It looked pretty intense, and Harry Reynolds looking to make his statement, of course, new to GT4 racing. He did do the Dubai 24 in a GT4 car at the start of the year, but that aside, he's been solely at the lower levels. He's been racing in GB4 previously with Elite, so it's a bit of a revitalisation of the relationship between him and the team. All going off track there was Cronin on the painted stuff, and that's not really notable in the dry, but in these conditions it does make you raise an eyebrow and hope for the best. Bolting and Blickler were running together for the AM lead, but look at Blickler, he's really falling through the pack. He's now down in 10th overall, having started the lap in 8th place. So Blickler in the 33 just not able to generate the performance that Joachim Bolting so often does in the wet conditions.
Bolting, by the way, is now 6th, I believe. Yes, ahead of Tom Pappenberg. He was sideways as he did it, such is the Joachim Bolting way, but he did manage to get through. What a lap, by the way, for Charlie Hart. He was, on that lap, 1.6 seconds quicker than Joel Mesh out in front. That is a significant advantage in performance for the Elite Motorsport driver, and he's only 1.1 seconds off the lead. Then it's this three-way battle for third. Marius Schmidt in the Mercedes, ahead of the two Porsche Caymans of Alan Gabay and Tim Horrell. And Gabay is up the inside, and I think into the side of the Mercedes. Around he goes, and Alan Gabay for the second time already in this race, finding that there's no grip on the inside and having to lean on the car to his outside to get the car slowed down. That time, though, the Porsche ended up pointing the wrong way.
And we know Gabay can be good in the wet conditions. He won a race last year at Motorland Aragon in some pretty interesting weather. Race 2 of the weekend there in 2025 went the way of the Israeli driver. So Charlie Hart then, as you said, putting on quite a prodigious pace in that previous lap. Joel Mesh will have been watching that happen in his mirrors and going, for Pete's sake, these McLarens, they're back again, and they're a right pain. The Blickler going very, very wide there. Ravi Rami passed him, and next through will be Macbeth on his return to racing in the GT4 Winter Series. It's his first appearance in the series, but it's his first race in 5 years. And Macbeth running third in Pro-Am right now, and not too far off the pace of Ravi Ramid, and that's always a good barometer for an AM driver if you're able to be somewhat near Rami's pace, who's one of the better bronzes out there. However, Macbeth has just lost out there to Matthias Vereisel in the Senkia machine. That was for 11th overall. Joel Mesh may be in danger here from Charlie Hart.
You think? Here comes Charlie Hart right round the outside into the penultimate corner. He has got grip to spare in the McLaren and made that look really a lot easier than it should have been. Joel Mesh, we know, is an incredibly strong driver. I mean, he is 5 seconds ahead of anybody else, apart from Charlie, who's using all of the road available to him and just a tiny bit more, but does move the Elite McLaren into the lead of the race. He has always gone well in the wet, Charlie Hart. He is turning into a really, really promising young GT racer, and he has just proven why. Again on that lap, he was 1.6 seconds quicker. That's 3.2 seconds gained in the 2 laps that he was in clean air. And on that basis, Adam, I suggest he might be able to get away.
Would say the same. He likes it here at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, I think. In the GT4 European Series last year, his best result of the season, a P3, came right here at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. I think this is his happy hunting ground, as it were. Alan Gabay has come into the pits, unfortunately, so from 20th position, the number 31 car has entered the pit lane, or was running in the top 10 before visiting the pit lane. Cronin, meanwhile, now on the back of Papenburg, who looks like he's got a bit of a balance issue with that car again, running 6th overall for the time being, but Cronin in 7th, gaining. We saw the Cronins, of course, last time we were in Portugal in the season opener, actually, at Portimao, and welcoming them back this time. They would certainly like to try and fight for some overall podiums, which they didn't achieve last time in the series.
No, they're sort of there or thereabouts, aren't they? 7th position, but they can see a podium not that far up the road, because this whole bunch of cars from 3rd on back look remarkably evenly matched, and don't count this man out yet either. Harry Reynolds, 12th position for the recovering Elite Motorsport driver, but yeah, his lap time's as good as everyone apart from the race leader. He is the 2nd fastest car on track, so clearly his McLaren escaped damage, or at least significant damage, in that collision with Joel Mesh here on the opening lap of racing, and he should now have the pace, I reckon, to start climbing up the order over the next few laps.
Yeah, you wouldn't bet against it. Let's see what the gap is this time between Hart and Mesh. It's going to be up quite significantly. Yes, another second taken out of it. 1.455 between Hart and Joel Mesh. Mesh, I think, will be happy that he's already a champion along with Enrico Federer. Doesn't have to worry about the points being taken away. The Formula Winter Series rule of newcomers not taking away championship points does not apply here in the GT classes, so it would have an effect on Mesh's point score if there were still championships in play for the 11 crew. Schmid then running in 3rd position in what is his first GT4 race, comes from the DMV BMW Challenge for BMW 318 Compacts previously, and now the GT4 car. He's done a lot of testing in this car with Muka Motorsport, and he's applying it well, but Tim Horrell is applying pressure very well to the number 80 driver. Another overall podium, he thinks, if Horrell can get through here.
Yeah, he looks at one with the car, doesn't he, Tim, as well? The nice little 4-wheel drift there out of turn 4 has put him right within striking range against the man we ride on board with, Mario Schmidt, the BWT Muka Motorsport Mercedes man. 2 completely different cars here, next to nothing to choose between them in performance, but Tim Horrell does maybe look to have a slight advantage. Has a good run there through the 7-8 sequence, but the inside at 9 surely isn't where you want to be. He's trying, if nothing else, to spook Schmidt into making a bit of a mistake. Didn't happen on that occasion, although the Mercedes man is a little wide over the curb on corner exit, and that could now yield an opportunity for Horrell into the braking zone at turn 10. No, nothing doing on the way into the corner. Schmidt makes it round the left-hander on the grippier side of the road and keeps the Porsche behind, but the more they battle, the closer the group behind will get.
Yeah, that is most likely going to be the case, and if this becomes a multi-car scrap for 3rd position, I think it's going to be very compelling. Papenburg kind of being dragged into this just by the sheer, I guess, bottleneck effect of Schmid at the moment. Bolting, Papenburg, Cronin could all be involved soon, but Horrell having a look here as they run down the main straight. We're hearing that the rain has started. We're seeing the windscreen wipers in effect as well. Horrell got a great run out of the final corner. The Porsche is always good towards the end of a straight and breezes by into 3rd position. The Pro-Am leader has got himself 3rd overall now. Schmid, I think, trying to see if he can get away through, and that might be it. Tim Horrell up on the curbs there at turn 2. Outside line now for Schmid. That's often the favoured line in these conditions. Can he keep the power down and make it work for himself heading towards turn 4 of the lap? Yes, he does. Schmid salvages that one. I don't think we thought that was going to happen. It felt like Horrell, once he was through, he would stay through, but then just all over the paint there at turn 2.
Yeah, just missed his braking point, I think, into turn 1. Went a bit too deep. clambered over the curb and just couldn't get the power down, as you said. So that opens the door for Schmid to come back through, and that has now invited Joachim Bolting to the party and Tom Pappenberg as well. So 2 AM drivers here, essentially. Horrell and Bolting once again with a giant killing performance, up there fighting for an overall podium finish. Tim once again a little bit wayward over the curbs. He'll be a touch frustrated now, Tim, that he hasn't made this move stick, and just needs to be careful. Any mistake now could cost him positions to Bolting and Pappenberg behind.
Absolutely right. So then, Pappenberg at the back of this 4-car queue for the time being, but he doesn't want to stay there. Has a look to the inside of Joachim Bolting, who I remind you is an AM class driver, running 5th overall at the moment. Bolting looking to run again in the GT4 European Series later in the year and fight for the championship there. He's been so dominant in the AM class of this series, and prior to that, of course, he was the force in the GT4 European as well for much of the year. Came runner-up eventually in GT4 European Series AM class, or Pro-Am class actually, because he was sharing the car, but one of the best bronzes in GT4. Ravi Ramyi looks like he's got some company there from Harry Reynolds, who's up into the overall top 10. Reynolds is going for 8th place here as we see the 2 WS Porsches on the back of Schmid. There's Reynolds into 8th then. Ramyi can't carry the momentum there through 1 into turn 2. 8th overall then for Harry Reynolds. Top 5 not a million miles away. Schmid should emerge here, still running in 3rd place. Yes, he does. Ooh. Here comes Bolting to the inside of Tim Horrell. It's 4th position for Joachim Bolting.
Fear, I saw that coming. Bolting seemed to be getting more and more comfortable in the conditions, and Horrell was getting just a bit frustrated, I think. Behind Pappenberg, and around goes Joachim Bolting from the lead of the AM category after all of the nice things we were saying about him. And off the road he goes. Pappenberg, meanwhile, takes advantage of the fact that I think that distracted and delayed Tim Horrell to move ahead of the WNS Porsche and gain 2 places in 1 corner, really. Pappenberg then up to 4th, and now will set off after his fellow Mercedes man up the road. Well, as I was saying that Bolting was the one getting quicker and Horrell the one making the mistakes, it was Bolting that made the critical error, and that will now, I think, cost him the AM class lead to Daniel Blickler.
I note that Tom Pappenberg has done a bit of a rite of passage for CV Performance prepared cars. He's lost his splitter. Actually lost his diffuser, thank you. That was the word I was looking for. He is running without that. I don't think it makes terribly much of a difference, but still, he's running a slightly wounded car. Tim Horrell, I think, will be very keen to find his way back through because he knows he has the pace over Schmid. I don't think necessarily that Pappenberg has the pace over Schmid, so if he wants an overall podium, he's going to have to try and make his way around him. But yes, to your point, Joachim Bolting will be well behind Daniel Blickler after that spin, and that is a costly one. We see Ravi Ramyid there sideways. Of course, Ramyid looking to try and hold on to the Vice Championship here in the GT4 Winter Series, and he will be hoping Charlie Robertson can pick up the mantle later on, but for now, not looking too bad for the L'Espace Bienvenu team.
And of course, in Pro-Am Championship land, that means that he is outscoring SR Motorsports, Billy Kuhner and Cedric Fuchs, so that gap going out again in the Pro-Am Championship battle. In fact, can't even see Billy Kuhner in that shot. He's all the way down in 17th place, hasn't yet crossed the line, so quite comfortably ahead of their Pro-Am Championship rivals, one of the handful of categories yet to be decided. Harry Reynolds launches up the inside of Tim Horrell into turn number 4. Tim just at the last minute there really got out of the way, but only just out of the way of the fired up Harry Reynolds, who now goes to the outside down the hill into 5. You've got Tom Pappenberg trying to defend from both of them. Can Reynolds get past both of them? He's cleared Horrell and now looks to try and draw level with the Mercedes. Down through the dip they go into the left-hander at 70. Jinks to the inside, and he is again finding grip where others seemingly can't. He sort of levers Pappenberg aside over the curb and does indeed drag the McLaren through. I think Harry Reynolds for the podium is a very real possibility.
You said not to rule him out for that exact scenario. He's now up to 4th position, and we've got 10.5 minutes and change left to try and find his way around Marius Schmid. Schmid will have been watching that in the mirrors and going, That's going to be difficult. And sure enough, already basically with the red Mercedes is the elite McLaren. I don't think it's going to be long there. Tim Horrell and Papenburg still exchanging pains of position here for 5th overall. The Pro-Am leader doesn't want to take too much out of himself here with that battle. Side by side for 3rd place. Reynolds with the unfavoured inside line, and somehow he makes that work too. Can Schmid get a good enough run out of the corner here to challenge? I think he had to kind of somewhat avoid the rear of the McLaren there coming out of the corner. He's going to be in the slipstream, but the McLaren, being one of the sleeker cars, should have a bit of an edge as they get quicker and quicker, going further and further down the straight. We ride on board with the Mercedes. It looked like Horrell was trying to get past Papenburg in the back of shot as well, but isn't quite close enough to do so. Reynolds through into 3rd place. I think by the time they cross the line at the end of this lap, he should be well clear. Schmid is trying, but based on what we've seen, surely Reynolds will gap him.
Yeah, it looks as though Reynolds has the grip advantage, doesn't he? But Schmidt, to his credit, is not letting him simply walk away with this 3rd position. Behind Horrell and Papenburg is a battle still raging on, with Cronin right in behind as well. Round the outside, attempts to go Tim Horrell. There's just a tiny bit of contact there between Papenburg and Horrell, and that is enough to keep the Mercedes ahead for the time being. Tim, though, again looks to the inside of 5, and Papenburg made a bit of a late move there in the braking zone to try and cover that inside line. Quite able to do so. They will still be alongside each other. They make contact once, twice through the dip. That's the 3rd time they've traded paint in the last couple of corners. Tom Papenburg with very pointy elbows here, trying to keep Tim Horrell at bay, which he succeeds in doing. But this is going to be massively frustrating for Tim, who only a couple of laps ago we were saying was on the verge of moving into a podium position, and now is stuck in 6th and in fact beginning to come under pressure from Robert Cronin in the McLaren behind. We've seen how well the McLarens have gone in the hands of Charlie Hart and Harry Reynolds, and Cronin really would like to try and get up there and prove that he can pedal one of these Arturas just as quickly as they can in these conditions.
Yeah, certainly Cronin wants to try and prove a point here this weekend, make a statement, both Cronins as a matter of fact. And Papenburg there, very sideways indeed. That car looking increasingly leery, and it's also seemingly increasingly got parts flapping underneath and hitting the floor in the under tray. Horrell had a look to the inside, but that might now cost him as Cronin has the slipstream going onto the main straight.
Yeah, Horrell is hell-bent on getting to the inside of Schmidt, and I'm not really sure that's the right way to go about this. I know I'm a commentator, not a racing driver. I'm not even half as quick as Tim Horrell is in this car, but he is really hunting around to the inside line and then losing ground on the exit, and just not quite positioning himself where he ideally would like to be. Of course, part of that is because Tom Papenburg is defending really well, keeping his Mercedes on the part of the racetrack that Tim Horrell would like to be occupying. They've got Cronin very much now buying into this battle too, and Harry Reynolds all the while pulling clear in front of them. This battle, by the way, going on 30 seconds behind the race leader, as Horrell does now lose a place, slips wide over the curb at turn 3, and through goes Cronin.
Yeah, that was impressive from Cronin. Hart then, 4.8 seconds clear at the front of the field. Haven't spoken about him much recently. His pace is some 4 seconds quicker than anyone in this battle. Such is the nature of how this fight is unfolding. It is a 4.8 second gap to Mesh. Mesh is some 25 seconds clear of Harry Reynolds. Those two have really left the rest of the field in the dust. We see Reynolds there already well clear now of Marius Schmid. There's Daniel Blickler under pressure from Matthias Vereisel. That is for 9th and 10th positions. Vereisel, the pro driver, the youngster for Senkia Motorsport, generational partnership there with Senkia Motorsport. His father always also drives cars under the Senkia umbrella on track events, and he would certainly like to see more progress on this. His second appearance in the Formula in the GT4 Winter Series. Of course, he was on the grid last time out, or his last time out of the grid was at Valencia. To the inside goes Cronin now on Papenburg. I thought the door might beckon, but again, that inside line not favourable. Horrell hopefully going to set himself up here for a good run. We know how quick that Porsche can be towards the end of the straight, but I think the McLaren's going to be the more present threat here. here, but Horrell in the slipstream at the number 75. Look at how much that car is gaining. That's incredible. There they come then, side by side. Cronin has Horrell for company. Papenburg, I think, was a bit earlier on the brakes there than either of them as well. Papenburg holds on. Cronin with Horrell on the outside. That becomes the inside for turn 2. Great fighting between them here for 6th position, but just holding on eventually is Cronin.
Well, we've got the biggest GT4 grid we've had all season. We're getting some of the best racing we've had all season from the GT4 Winter Series as well. This is really impressive stuff in very tricky conditions. It has, I think, started raining again, but not enough actually to soak the tracks. It's just staying in this really awkward, greasy state at the moment where the drivers don't have a lot of grip. They're all fighting for the grippier line, and it is a real dogfight to try and position your car where you want it to be at the expense of the others around you. Right up the inside curve goes Cronin. That worked on the way into the corner, but you can see on exit, Papenburg with the wider, grippier line is able to drive back ahead of Cronin, who is once again adventurously hunting around on the inside into turn 7.
Yeah, adventurous is certainly the word. People placing their cars all over the shop, really, just trying to find some grip. Of course, there are limits to the around the outside theory. You can still cost yourself some time if you try and push it to the furthest of extremes, and they're just trying to figure out that balance between still taking the corner somewhat efficiently and finding the grip around the outer limits of the regular racing line. There's Tim Horrell a little bit sideways at turn 11, having to catch a slide all the while, and just slightly understeering at turn 12 as well, but slight understeer you may want in these conditions as they turn through the 13th penultimate corner. Papenburg's car looks really uncomfortable, quite frankly. He's sliding around some of these corners. Cronin once again has a good run out of the turn, although I think he had to scrub a little bit of speed to avoid the rear of the Mercedes. Will Papenburg be under threat as they run down to the first corner? No, because Tim Horrell again using the Porter's speed. Cronin very late on the brakes. I don't know if he meant to go for the move, but he tried to make it work. Papenburg goes off the circuit and rejoins where he's not really supposed to do so. He's meant to go around those bollards coming out of turn 3, or coming into turn 3, and he went straight across. Not necessarily his fault that he was off the circuit to begin with, but I think that's going to be a debate in race control.
Well, it's the age-old debate, isn't it? Yes, he went off the road and there are procedures he's supposed to follow, but he will argue that that was not his fault, and now he levers aside Cronin onto the grass. The rain really starting to come down quite heavily now. Cronin right up the curb again, and they make contact not for the first time this lap. Both cars slithering around out of the corner, and here comes Tim Horrell. Tim Horrell barges his way through on the inside line down the hill, and he will move ahead now of Cronin. That was brilliant elbows out stuff. Read the situation really well there, Tim Horrell, and took full advantage.
And they're going to have 2 more laps when they cross the line this time by, because the Elite Motorsport number 78 car does lead the way and has already crossed the line to begin a new lap of racing. So keep an eye on that. We've got 2 more laps of this if they last. Tim Horrell to the inside of Papenburg. This is for 5th overall. It is not for a position in terms of the class standings, although Ravi Ramiad is getting closer to Tim Horrell and amongst all of this as well, so that's worth keeping an eye on. And of course, the Horrell car is also where we find Frederick Zebes for 2nd in the overall championship. Here they go side by side again through 13. Papenburg with the favoured outside gets the power down a little bit better, and they come now out of the final corner with Papenburg still just about ahead, and under investigation he is for not rejoining as stipulated in the driver's briefing. We'll keep an eye on that. Here comes the Cayman once again. He's got a nose ahead. Will he have the whole car ahead by the time they get under braking into turn 1? The answer is no. Papenburg holds on. Late on the brakes from him, and he will keep hold of this 5th position for now, but again, almost 2 full laps still to hold on up against all of this pressure.
Oh, well, breathless racing this is, and I think there's a little bit of needle starting to develop now between a few of these drivers. They've let Schmid off the hook, really, haven't they? He's off and away now in 4th position. It is the Papenburg train, and he really is the cork in the bottle here. Tim Horrell looking to the outside, but again, Papenburg, we know what he's going to do. He's going to move over to the edge of the road, and that opens the door for Cronin to get alongside Horrell and maybe Papenburg. Yes, he is alongside Papenburg. Desperately late on the brakes, too late on the brakes for Cronin. And to your point earlier, Adam, just because you're on the outside line does not necessarily mean you're going to go quickest through the corner. He was a bit too late on the brakes there, was very close to making the overtake, but instead stays exactly where he was, 7th place.
Yeah, really a doomed enterprise as soon as he had a wheel on the white line, wasn't it? Papenburg a bit wiggly there, I think, on the white line, as Tim Horrell has a look to the inside. Coming across the line now, having already taken the start of the last lap, is Charlie Hart, so it is 1.5 to go for this battle at this stage. Tim Horrell looking to the outside for turn 10-11, and the number 30 car has been certainly in the midst of a lot of the fighting at the moment, and Cronin, of course, right there with him. Cronin is a pro entry, Ramyed behind them, and the BMW is a Pro-Am entry, as is Horrell, so by no means is the Pro-Am win fully solidified with this kind of racing going on. Papenburg still holding on and holding on some more. Cronin around the outside, all the way around the outside there at 13. What happens at turn 14? They're side by side. Here comes Cronin. He's on the slippery stuff there coming out of the corner. I think Horrell there squeezing with intent coming out of that final turn, and now he's got Papenburg in his crosshairs once again on the run down to the first corner, not sure which way to go, and goes to the outside eventually, can't get it done, very, very close, marginal contact between them there, coming through turns 1 and 2. The 85 is the widest GT4 car I've ever seen pass scrutineering.
Well, I think I said last week that GT4 racing was touring car racing on steroids. We really are seeing this here. A lot of paint trading, but massively entertaining to watch. Whoa. Cronin takes a very entertaining line through turn number 3. He's under threat from Ravi Ramyed, who's joining in the fun now as well. Round 4 we head. Keep an eye on Horrell though. The traction he's got off these tight corners, particularly turn 12 at the end of the lap, is absolutely awe-inspiring, but can he do anything with it?
Meanwhile, towards the back of the lap there, that's Thilo Goss running at the rear of the field, but the race winner will be coming around the penultimate corner now. That will be Charlie Hart. There he is through the last turn, the number 78 car with a dominant performance, the orange and black McLaren winning the race comfortably. Mesh will take second. What's going on in the battle for 5th? Let's find them again. I think they'll be coming up towards the last sector now. Yes, there they are, just coming across the line to start the final sector of the lap. A 10-second penalty for not respecting the rejoin instructions to Tom Papenburg. He and his driver coach Nico Verdonk, I think, will have a thing or two to say about that one. Reynolds is going to come across the line to make it a double podium for Elite Motorsport. Marius Schmid will take a comfortable 4th. Will Papenburg hold on to 5th on the track? Ultimately, it could be immaterial, but no one's told Tim Horrell. He's still trying to get to the inside, and that might now cost him against Cronin. Cronin has the unfavoured inside. Horrell will hold on. It will be 5th position once the penalty is applied for Tim Horrell. But a Pro-Am win for the number 30 driver. Moreover, another Pro-Am win for the driver that has dominated that class this year, or one of the drivers. I think it's really between he and Ramyed in terms of AMs that have done well in the Pro-Am class. Daniel Blickler with 10th overall, winning the AM class. What a drive that was, though, from your winning driver, the 78 of Charlie Hart. The black and orange McLaren dominating on Elite Motorsport's return to the GT4 Winter Series, their first appearance this season. Of course, Charlie Hart last year was a rival to the Elite crew, running for the Race Lab team. But on this occasion, he has taken the wheel of the Elite car and has done something pretty spectacular with the manner in which he won that race. 7.5 seconds clear of Mesh and Förderer. just still coming across the line. Some of the drivers further back, including Thilo Goss, who just crosses the line now to win the AM class, at the club class, sorry, for out of homologation cars. The Pro-Am win going the way of Tim Horrell, the AM win going the way of Daniel Blickler. Cayman Trophy for the just sub GT4 spec Caymans. Helga Tam coming out on top of that one, just ahead of XR Racing's Marco Reinbold. The number 78 Elite Motorsport car pulling up to the P1 slot. You can see there the Pirelli engineer just making sure all is well with that wet weather P0. Charlie Hart still brandishing the previous race suit, I note, but now running with Elite Motorsport. And what a way to open his account with that team. There's Mackenzie Cresswell, his teammate for this weekend. Of course, Mackenzie, the outgoing GT4 Winter Series champion. And he will be in the car tomorrow morning. We'll see how he stacks up against Enrico Ferderer. I get the feeling it's going to be SR versus Elite, just as it was for the full season in 2025. A bit of a reunion in 2026 for the finale here at Barcelona. But the double podium for Elite, proving that there's been no change to their fabulous form. One of the best teams out there in GT4s in Europe at the moment, and kicking off the season well in the GT4 Winter Series here. For Mesh, for Ferderer, they will extend their championship lead, of course, over any of the regular runners. For Tim Horrell, it slightly shifts the Pro-Am points as well, but that car not really a factor in the championship, since Tim missed out on racing with us at Valencia. When he's been here, he's been right up there in Pro-Am, but unfortunately couldn't commit to all 5 events. Therefore, for Ravi Ramy taking second in the points, with Villicuna finishing 5th, that will be a fairly sizable swing for them. Will extend the points lead for Ramid and Robinson out to 20 points, and that will do them a great number of favours for the remainder of the weekend. Only 30-ish points left. I think 32 points available to score this weekend from here on Sunday in the GT4 Winter Series Pro-Am class. So certainly the Pro-Am title looking in favour of Robertson and Ramud right now. No questions about the race, though. What a dominant drive from Charlie Hart. He is with Izzy.
It certainly was, and Charlie's dad actually spoke to me on the grid just before the race and said, don't worry, you can catch up with him after the race on the podium. Well, your dad's predicted it. Incredible drive. I mean, you reeled Joel in, made an amazing move for the lead, and then you just checked out.
Obviously avoided that near miss with Harry. A bit unfortunate what happened to him, but yeah, had a good ding dong on that one with the Porsche, and then eyes forward onto the Mercedes. We were taking chunks out of him, so yeah, just had to have faith in the overtake, sent it, and then yeah, just managed to race from there.
Yeah, you certainly did. I mean, back with the Elite team as well. Of course, actually, Harry's car right behind you, so he did a good job to come back too. You come into a second year in GT4. Obviously, you were with us last year in the GT4 Winter Series. How much more confidence are you carrying this year? Because it certainly looked like a confident drive.
Yeah, obviously, back with Elite now, mega team, and yeah, carried the confidence from last year. Not as alien to me this time, and yeah, been out the car for a while, so it was good to get back in, and yeah, just kept the confidence up over the winter.
Yeah, certainly have done. I mean, Mackenzie was here to congratulate you as well. What a duo you two are going to be. I mean, a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, mega job as well from Mackenzie today, obviously poling it. Yeah, we're going to be a mega job. Chemistry's already there, so yeah, good stuff.
Love it. Well, it's great to have you back in the Winter Series, even if it is just for this final weekend. Go and enjoy the podium. A win for Charlie Hart.
Indeed, a win for Charlie Hart on his return to the GT4 Winter Series. I don't think we'll see much of him in these highlights because he walked off with it, but let's have a look. Well, drama before the race even started in the GT4 Winter Series race 1 of the weekend. A big hit there from Alexander Bobrovs. Unfortunately, the gamble to start this race on slicks not paying off in the greasy conditions. That would grant us an extra formation lap before we went racing, and we did go racing early on at least. It was Joel Mesh leading the way with Harry Reynolds pressuring him in second place. Everyone tiptoeing through, trying to gauge the conditions. Slippery out there in the first corners of the lap. Harry Reynolds was really on a charge. He was through into the lead and then just broke traction there, going through turn 12, sorry, and tagging, unfortunately, the Joel Mesh car. We saw the 78 car in contact as well with the 31. That was Maximilian Schreier getting knocked around. In fact, the number 31 driven by a different driver in this race. But we saw lots of fighting all through the field. August Macbeth on his return to racing in the number 15 NM Racing Team car. Great to have him with us for the first time in 5 years. But this was the frankly absurd moment where the lead changed hands. The 78 car of Charlie Hart powering by. And then further back in the field, it really kicked off for third position as it was at the time. Marius Schmid holding on to the position at all costs against the likes of Tim Horrell and the charging Harry Reynolds and Joachim Bolting and just about anyone else you could throw at him at various points. 88 car of Joachim Bolting in a spin after briefly getting past Marius Schmid. Schmid was doing a great job of making that car as wide as humanly possible. Thilo Goss getting at it with Helge Tam further back in the field as well, but Tom Pappenberg would soon turn out to be the cork in the bottle. Schmid would drive away, Harry Reynolds would get past Tom Pappenberg, and for the rest of the race, Pappenberg would be fighting for 5th place as if his life depended on it. Unfortunately, towards the end of the race, he would get himself a 5-second penalty, and that would really change things. Tom Pappenberg with Tim Horrell around his outside. Horrell would spend several laps trying to get around the outside of the young Dutchman. But again, that 85 CV Performance car looking very wide indeed as the race continued on. We see there the number 42 car to the inside. That's another one of the Cayman Trophy runners. That was Matthias Fereisel picking his way through some of the lower positions, having I think had a bit of an incident. In fact, no, sorry, that was Clemens Drexel in a very similarly liveried car. Robert Cronin was going at it with Tom Pappenberg. He'd got himself past Tim Horrell, but he couldn't find a way past the black Mercedes, no matter how he tried, and this was a key moment. Pappenberg crossing the runoff at turn 1 and turn 2, and that would grant him a 10-second penalty as he failed to rejoin, as per the driver's briefing notes. And then contact between he and Cronin on not one but 2 occasions, as Cronin was desperate to get through. The door would open for Tim Horrell, and once again it was Horrell's turn to try and get past Tom Pappenberg, who again seemed hell-bent on a 5th place trophy. Not that there's one awarded for that position. He was fighting very hard indeed, driving exclusively through the mirrors and getting a knock or 2 on his way. He would ultimately, though, receive a 5-second penalty for his troubles. So it would be 5th place eventually for Tim Horrell as Pappenberg was dropped away. But what about this man? Charlie Hart dominating the race, driving well clear of Joel Mesh. I think the SR team will be burning the midnight oil trying to figure out how to match the performance of the orange and black McLaren on Sunday. Charlie Hart with a winning return to the GT4 Winter Series, besting Joel Mesh by almost 8 seconds. Harry Reynolds in 3rd position ahead of Marius Schmid for BWT Booker Motorsport. Tim Horrell's WNS Motorsport car in 5th place. Robert Cronin in 6th. Ramid 7th. Fereisel, Blickler, the AM winner, and August Macbeth bringing us down to 10th position, just ahead of Joachim Bolting, who had his spin but still recovered to P11. Tom Pappenberg's penalty dropping him down to 12th place, ahead of Kempster Helga Tam, Reinbold, Villicuna, who loses out to Ramyed and Robertson in the Pro-Am standings as a result of that finish. Alex Wendt for SMC Motorsport in 17th. Clemens Drexel in 18th. Thilo Goss in 19th. And Alan Gabay in 20th position. Of course, he was in the 31 car for this race. He was in the 31 that he will also share with Schreier. Let's go down to the podium, though, as I understand Andy is ready to go.
Well, another hugely entertaining race in the GT4 Winter Series, and we've got lots of drivers gathered backstage to head out onto the podium, starting with the Cayman Trophy, our second place finisher, Marco Reinbold. And Marco is, I think, busy chatting behind the podium, and we're going to go and find him and bring him out onto the podium in a moment or two. Where is he? Have we lost Marco? He was here, we were reliably informed. He has gone. Okay, so we'll instead welcome our race winner onto the podium. A first victory of the season, the Cayman Trophy, for Helga Tam. And Helga heads to the top step of the podium. The trophies will now come out, and we have got Florencio from Pirelli on hand to take the trophies onto the podium. And lots of people joining the celebrations in the pit lane. Helga Tam then celebrates the victory in the Cayman Trophy. And poses for photos in the rain, I'm afraid to say now, here at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, as it does now start to come down a little bit more heavily. His team are very pleased with that. The East Racing Motorsport squad celebrating with Helga Tam. We move on now then to the AM class podium, and we start then with our third place finisher in AM, Alex Wendt. On to the third step goes the SMC Motorsport driver. Second position, though, important points for our championship leader, Joachim Balting. And he extends his championship lead with that second place finish, despite the spin that he had midway through the race. The race victory in the AM category, though, goes to his WNS Motorsports teammate, Daniel Blickler. His first appearance in the GT4 Winter Series this season, and he picks up a race win in the AM category, and it's a 1-2 finish for WNS Motorsport, who once again have more silverware to take home with them at this final event of the season. Handshakes all round. We have got Mark and Sergio from GEDLICH, along with Florencio from Pirelli, on hand for podium duties. Photos to be taken by our official GEDLICH Winter Series photographers and the assorted team members down below as the AM drivers celebrate at the end of a hard-fought race. So congratulations once again then to our AM class podium finishers, and particularly to Daniel Blickler, the AM class race winner, and Joachim Balting, who extends his championship lead. We move on now then to Pro-Am, and in third position for NM Racing Team, August Macbeth. A brilliant return to racing after 5 years out of the cockpit. Second position for L'Espace Bienvenu's Rami Ramid. And extends again his championship lead in the class. The race win, though, for the 5th time in the Pro-Am category this year goes to the number 30 WNS Motorsport car of Tim Horrell. And what a battle Tim had, once again mixing it within the overall top 5. and taking the fight to the pro drivers. And Tim, joined with members from the WNS Motorsport team, celebrates once again on the top step of the podium. As I said, that car has won 5 times this year now, and Tim has done quite a bit of that Pro-Am class winning. For Ravi Rami, that extends his Pro-Am championship lead over the SR Motorsport Mercedes that was in the hands of Billy Kuna, so job done for them from a championship perspective. But with 2 races still to go, a lot still to play for here at Barcelona. Once again, the drivers gather together on the top step of the podium. And Tim Horrell, who did look a little bit out of breath at the end of that race, I have to say, what a battle he had. And he is able to claim the win in Pro-Am. So, in a moment or two, we'll get our pro top 3 onto the podium, and it was our overall top 3 as well. That's not always been the case this year, but the pro teams locking out the top 3 finishing positions in this first race of the weekend. And I can see the Elite Motorsport team in particular ready to celebrate down below, and they can do so now as we introduce the 3rd place finisher for Elite Motorsport, Harry Reynolds. And Harry heads to the 3rd step of the podium. 2nd position for SR Motorsport by Schnitzelhaus, Joel Mesh. And the champions in GT4 Winter Series celebrate another podium. It is, though, a race victory on his return to Winter Series competition for Charlie Hart. And Elite Motorsport celebrate 2 drivers on the overall and pro class podium. And what a drive that was from Charlie Hart, finding grip where no one else could in the early stages to charge up to the lead. Could have been a different story if Harry Reynolds had avoided the drama in the early stages, but he fought back nicely to 3rd. And Joel Mesh picking up another solid finish for SR Motorsport as well. So as the final set of photos are taken on the podium, we've got GT Winter Series cars on the grid. I think we've just about got time to head down and hear from Izzy Browning.
We have indeed just about got enough time to come down to the grid. It is going to be a very, very quick grid walk, though. Of course, the title is to be decided this weekend in Barcelona, but different front row. We have got Guy Albach on pole position. He did race with us last weekend in Aragon, but it was a very up and down weekend for him, a very difficult weekend. He will be hoping for better this afternoon here in Barcelona, but as I said, quick grid walk, type of the race.
So then, a deluxe grid in the GT Winter Series, and some compelling situations at play, I suspect, for this one, because Guy Albach starting from pole position, lofty heights that he's not yet experienced in GT racing. He's joined by Mattia Michelotto, who's seen it all before as it pertains to being on the front row. Kenneth Heyer is next in the SR Motorsport by Schnitzelhaus car. no starting driver listed for me on the number 34 MZR machine, but we've already gone past that. Second row of the grid alongside him is Severin Mazur, Simon Orange and Marius Aigner on row 3 of the grid. The Orange Racing by JMH car and the MZR KTM. In fact, the grid that I'm seeing is different. Okay, no, Aigner 7th and Jaroslav Veselaho in 8th place, so that is row 4 of the grid. Oliver Witzer in 9th position. The 84 car, that's Oliver's first ever appearance racing in... Orange has spun. The Orange Racing by JMH car has had a spin, we're being told, but we should really see it because that is a huge story. Witzer and Rudolf Benno on the 5th row of the grid. Alfredo Hernandez from row 6 of the grid. He's alongside Alejandro Geppert. Row 7, Przemysław Bienkowski, the PTT Racing car. He is alongside Michael Fischbaum in 15th position. Andre Fernandez with Florian Scholze alongside him. Then it will be a gap back to the Cup grid, also featuring a proto class, the Duquesne D09 of BWT Motorsport, alongside Jerzy Spinkovic of Unique Racing. Row 10 of the grid is Alessio Raffini, joined by Petar Matic. 21st and 22nd, meanwhile, is Anders Steiner, joined by Pipo Massa, the son of Felipe, making his first car racing appearance in Europe. 23rd and 24th position will be Igor Klaya alongside Michael Hove, and speedrunning the rest of the grid if we possibly can. Alberto Di Martin 25th, Raffaele Vitale in 26th place, ahead of Andreas Greiling, Pavel Buska, Ulrich Forsberg and Mats Kimby. 30 cars on the grid in total then in the GT Winter Series. 30 set to take the start anyway. It's worth noting, as we think they're going to get 2 formation laps, so I didn't need to speed run that. We are going to get 2 formation laps, but all the same, worth noting we have lost a couple of cars. One of the Erla Motorsport machines, the Porsche 992 GT3 R Evos, had a crash. That was Tim Witzer, the older of the Swiss pair, the father and son pairing. So unfortunately Witzer Senior is relegated to the role of spectator for this race after aquaplaning at the same time actually as the number 227 Aston Martin. That, of course, was the car that Tom Coronel was set to race this weekend. I don't know if CompTube perhaps has a spare Aston in the truck. Maybe we could see them out later on. But certainly for race 1 of the weekend, it is not going to happen. So we have to bear that in mind. Tim Witzer... sorry, yes, Tim is the son of Oliver, so I got that the wrong way round. But Tim Witzer is unfortunately a non-starter in this race, so it will be Witzer Senior who gets this one started. Now, where did Simon Orange spin? Ooh. Turn 2, and that was just a snap, I think, as the turbo spooled there on the McLaren, and that's going to drop him down the field. He is now rolling again, but that is a big shame for the Orange Racing McLaren driver, who is still at the back of the queue. We saw there as well the MZR car join the race. Now, I still don't know who's in that because it's only just come out onto the circuit. Given it qualified 4th for this race, I do wonder if it's John Lancaster at the wheel for this one. The car is being shared between Lancaster and Hamed Al-Wahabi, the Omani racer, the first ever Omani to compete in the World Rally Championship. He comes from an off-road background. It's his first weekend of racing in circuits, some 30-plus years into his career. But I don't think, with all due respect, that he'd be 4th place on his first time out. So John Lancaster would be my contender to be in that car, but we'll wait and see. And it's now confirmed that it is Lancaster, and it's confirmed that he'll be starting at the back with Simon Orange. So keep an eye on that KTM. John Lancaster is going to be one to watch. In fact, both KTMs will be ones to watch. Marius Aigner on the 3rd row of the grid, as it will now be. That's going to be very compelling to watch. Aigner, a race winner in the Central European GT Cup Series previously, from 5th on the grid. GTX cars starting with the GT3s this time, and that could put a cat among the pigeons.
And we'd heard there might have been a second drama for Simon Orange, recovering from the first spin, and he's overcooked it coming down into turn 5, so that car's been pointing the wrong way. It's been through the gravel. That could well have done some damage. So this is not ideal for Simon Orange, who starts from the back of the grid now, whilst his championship rival Kenneth Heyer starts from 3rd.
Yeah, that's going to be tricky stuff. That's going to be playing on the mind of Simon Orange. He's already had 2 errors out there on the track. You might play this one careful going forward. Just 4 points between them in the championship. That could have been a critical error. We'll see how it looks by the end of the weekend. Guy Albag and Ignacio Zanon running 1st and 2nd. It was meant to be Michelotto, I thought, starting the car, but it will be Zanon in the Lamborghini. But it is Guy Albag that leads the way down to the first corner. That much is for certain. And it looks like Albag got a fairly good launch away there as the lights went out. Oh, too deep into the first corner to my eye. Did he actually get it stopped for the turn? I am not so sure. No, he did not. He has to go around the bollards. Will that give the opportunity to Zanon for the race lead? Not quite. Kenneth Heyer follows them through in 3rd place as Albag and Zanon will emerge here from turn 4 in Lockstead. Turn 3 in Lockstead. Albag leads the way just about. What did you see in the background there, Andy?
There was a spinning Mercedes. Couldn't quite see who it was. Bienkowski, I thought it might have been. Coming out of turn number 3. Here is the Group 2 start, meanwhile. After a very lively Group 1 run through the first few corners. What does Group 2 have in store for us?
Well, hold on, we're about to find out. It's Jerzy Spinkovic having an unlikely drag race with the Duqueine D09 as they run down to the first corner. And it is Jerzy Spinkovic that leads the field down there. Oh, Ariel Levy has gotten into it, I think, with John Lancaster towards the rear of the Group 1 order there. We'll keep an eye on that to see if Levy can get going. Is it Levy? No, it's Florian Schulze, sorry, who started that car. We can see the prototypes in the proto class getting swallowed up a bit by the cup cars. Double yellow flags up at turn 5, and I wouldn't mind betting that could convert into the more sinister safety car lights before too long. Be prepared for full course yellow is the bulletin. At the front of the field then, it is Antonelli Motorsport's Guy Albag that leads the way. Or is it? He certainly was leading at the first 2 splits. He should still be leading as we now go to full course yellow. And yes, Spinkovic just getting that bulletin, I think, a little bit late. But the full course yellow is out, and Florian Schulze, unfortunately, is in the gravel. His rear axle beached, and not the start of the weekend that Attempto wanted on their 2nd appearance of the season in the GT Wind Series.
Very much so. Well, what a dramatic start to the race this has been. It was dramatic before we even started the race, actually, with the Simon Orange dramas and other people then falling by the wayside around that opening lap. Going to be interesting to see where Simon is at the conclusion of lap 1. What a shame as well that the KTM got sort of tangled up in all of that, because that had made some big forward progress over the first couple of corners. John Lancaster had probably overtaken about 5 or 6 people by the time he got to turn 5, where he's then been delayed seemingly with the spinning Audi. We're on board with Kenneth Heyer, and as it stands, Kenneth Heyer would move back into the championship lead in the SR Motorsport Mercedes AMG. He runs 3rd overall, that is 3rd in the GT3 class. Simon Orange is 9th overall, and that is 8th in GT3. That is quite a significant point swing at the moment in the favour of SR Motorsport. I suppose the flip side of that, if I'm trying to be optimistic for Simon, is that he has more places he can gain, and probably should be able to gain, really. Remember, he qualified 6th, so he was only a couple of places behind Kenneth Heyer on the grid, and should really be able to pick a few more positions up from there. This is what happened to the Audi, and it was a solo spin, but again, trapped on the inside line there for Florian Schulze, and Lancaster spinning perhaps in avoidance.
Yeah, somewhere between avoidance and just getting the power down wrong himself, but that was certainly hand in mouth, and Florian Schulze just looping the car around, so easily done in these circumstances. We'll see if this goes to safety car. That happened a couple of times, of course, at Motorland Aragon. I think that's probably where we're headed with this, but if we can do it under full course yellow, we will. Visor up and focus forward for Simon Orange. now running 9th place, and as you said, 8th in the GT3 class. The GTX car of Marius Egner, of course, scored separately in terms of the classes, and the classes determine the overall championship. You can see the laser focus on Simon Orange. He will be kicking himself, but I feel like he is composed enough as a driver to get back into the zone.
Well, and this is where Marcus Clutton, I'm sure, is on the radio to Simon, telling him, calm down, there's a long way to go, put that behind you. He knows how good of a racer Simon is. He really proved that, Simon Orange, a week ago at Motorland Aragon, actually, really putting in some very, very tasty moves to gain positions, particularly in Sunday's racing, I seem to remember. And so Marcus, I'm sure, will be on the radio to Simon, coaching him through this situation. That's the job of a pro driver. It's not just to get in the car and go quickly yourself, or you know, deliver after session advice to your AM driver. You've got to coach them through these tricky championship situations, and I'm sure that's the conversation that's going on.
Safety car has been declared, so the safety car is out on the circuit, and the field will bunch up. Of course, that completely negates the separation of the Cup and the GT3 classes, so that will bring potentially Jerzy Spinkovic into a very interesting position, because we know what Jerzy can do. We've seen him fight GT3 cars before, and for Jerzy Spinkovic, I mean, it's his only appearance of the season in the GT Win Series. He's here to have fun. Moreover, it's his first time in a car in 7 months. He's gone through so much rehabilitation and recovery to be back here after a huge plethora of injuries sustained in a testing crash in September. Several surgeries immediately after the accident. He remembers losing the rear end and then waking up in hospital. And he's been very keen to get back into the car. This has always been the intended return date, going back to pre-season, pre-Christmas actually. It was already known that Unique Racing would be out for this weekend, and he will be one to watch once the field is all bunched together.
Yep, which does now start to happen. There goes the last of the GT3 cars. That's Alfredo Hernandez, who has tagged along at the back of that group, and then there's a bit of a wait for Jerzy Spinkovic to lead the next group of cars. In fact, he's got Petar Matic right behind him. That's a battle for the Cup 4 lead. Petar Matic picking up a few positions on the overall running order from where they started. So Guy Albag leads in GT3. Marius Eigner leads the GTX category in his KTM. Cup 4, as I said, led by Spinkovic. The Proto class by Tobias Bill Clausen. And Cup 2 by Pipo Massa. So Pipo Massa ahead of Anders Steiner to lead in Cup 2. And I'm sure his dad is very, very happy with that, watching on from the pit lane. And speaking of Cup 2, this is a significant car in Cup 2. And in the context of the overall championship, Igor Klyer is third in the overall championship. And remember, led the championship actually only a round or two ago. And really lost out at Motorland Aragon because there were only a handful of Cup 2 entrants. And once the entry within your class dips below a certain number, there are fewer points available. So even though he won all 3 races at Motorland Aragon, he scored only 12 points per win. This weekend, though, a brilliant opportunity for him to get back in the championship conversation.
Yeah, 20 points for a win in Cup 2 this weekend. Where he sits right now in 4th in class, he'd score 14 points with just 6 cars in the Cup class, but it's still the full quota, so he won't mind that. In the GT3 consideration, Haya would currently score 16 points, while running 6th in class, it would be 10 for the McLaren driver Simon Orange. So, in fact, no, sorry, it'd be 8 for Simon Orange in 8th position in the standings at the moment. So that's going to be a big swing in favour of Haya, and in some regards also in favour of Klyer, at least to catch up to 2nd in the standings slightly. But there's a long way to go in this race. I fancy the title pictures as they look now won't mean an awful lot in the not too distant future. They continue to follow the safety car around then for at least one more lap. To your point with Pipo Massa, let's touch base with him. I mean, he's only 16 years old, and contrary to what you might think, especially given Felipe used to be the head of the FIA Karting Commission, Pipo actually hasn't done that much karting. It was fairly recent endeavour that he got started in the world of motorsport, and it's this year that he's moved into cars. We had him testing at GEDLICH Racing race test along with his father at Portimao in February. He's done an appearance now in the Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil and managed to get 2 rookie wins at Interlagos, which is a rather apropos destination given his father is an ex-Brazilian Grand Prix winner. And now they share a car here in the GT Winter Series, the first time that the father and son Massa duo have shared a car. And given that one of Felipe's racing projects in the recent past has been the Rolex 24, he's done a couple of starts in that in LMP2 cars in the last couple of years, I get the feeling it's not going to be the last time that they share.
No, more than likely, and I think they're going to be a pretty potent pairing, aren't they, come the pit stop race tomorrow. But Pipo, for now, are doing everything that he needs to do all on his own back, because he leads that Cup 2 category over Anders Steiner, who we've seen regularly appearing in that class in Winter Series competitions. That's going to be an interesting scrap. They are nose to tail, actually, so those 2 cars next to each other in the queue, battling for class honours. Safety car in this lap, so we're going to have give or take half the race to go when we go racing once again. And at least within the GT3 category, it is all about what sort of a recovery drive do we get from Simon Orange, and can Kenneth Heyer do anything about the cars ahead of him? I mean, he was hanging on in there with Guy Albag and Ignazio Zanon before the safety car came out. Admittedly, we haven't done a lot of racing by that point. Can Kenneth gain any more places, or will he come under threat from the likes of Severin Mazur behind?
If I was a racing weather forecaster, or just a racing forecaster, I would be pointing towards Hurricane Mazur in 4th for Kenneth Heyer before worrying about Zanon Albag. I get the feeling that Severin isn't going to leave any meat on the table this weekend coming out of this GT Winter Series. He's had a great run from Estoril through to here. He's had some solid pace, not always had the finishes to match, and he'll want a podium, especially since he's so close to it. And I don't think he'll worry about all the mathematical connotations of the championship either. Guy Albag then will take control of the field. Ignazio Zanon in 2nd place in the VSR Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini Huracan GT3. It is the black and green Merc in 3rd position. It is 3 manufacturers in the top 3, 4 in the top 5 with the GTX spec KTM. Keep an eye on that car on this run down the main straight, because it will be quicker in a straight line than the GT3s. We are going to wait. Guy Albag is going to leave it until the last moment to now put the power down. We are back to racing speeds, and Guy Albag timed that quite well. I think Zanon might be under a little bit of pressure here running down the straight from Kenneth Heyer, and keep an eye on the KTM. Where is it up in the spray? Not past Severin Mazur. I think it's going to stay in 5th position, actually. Everyone holds station in the higher positions, but look at Orange. I think that's 3 cars he might take. Oh no, he's put off the track there by Benno Rudolph, or Rudolph Benno, I should say, in the Senkia Motorsport BMW. He's taken the correct line there to rejoin, but I don't know if it's seen that he gained those positions off the track. It's 50-50. He will be running 6th overall for the time being, 5th in class, and that means he's now going to get 12 points critically in the championship.
It's tricky, that, isn't it, though, because Benno was sort of busy tangling with Alejandro Gephardt in the SMC Motorsport McLaren. That delayed them, and it meant that Simon naturally gained an advantage, but not necessarily because he was off the road, so that's going to be a tricky one to dissect after. Anyway, the end result is he's now 5th in class. That was a really pivotal move because it got him ahead of 3 other GT3 cars, and he's now closing in on the KTM as well, which looked a little bit scrappy out of 7 and 8. Simon Orange looks to the inside line. This is not for points, but it is for track position, and it's really quite important that he gets a move on here, because the 707 McLaren now comes up behind him to challenge as well, and the sooner Simon Orange is in clean air, the better.
Yeah, that really will be the mentality now, of course, with the GT2 spec car, which is, I think, running sans BOP ballast, hence in the GTX class. You can see Simon there fully focused. Great to have the visor up on his. It's really allowing us to see what's going on through his eyes at the moment, and he's trying to get around Marius Egner, I think, right now. Of course, this car will be stronger through this section. Indeed, that was him going around the outside. I saw his eyes shifting to the passenger side window, and sure enough, he's through and past the KTM. And indeed, I think he's got enough of an advantage that the KTM isn't going to fire back down the straight. Of course, of the GT2s, the KTM is the most reliant on its handling rather than its power. So the KTM not going to be able to challenge running down to turn 1.
Yeah, well, that was really good stuff from Simon Orange then. 4 places gained on that lap, so he's now into 5th overall and will chase down Severin Mazur if possible for 4th place in the GT3 class. There goes Guy Albag, not taking the traditional racing line through turn number 3, but managing to rejoin the track. He was a bit slower in the first sector as a result, I'm sure, of that moment, than Ignazio Zanon, but the gap was just under 2 seconds at the line, so Zanon is not quite able to live with the Mercedes at the moment. But importantly, not really under threat from the Mercedes behind of Kenneth Heyer. Simon Orange, though, I think looks like he's got decent pace now. His first sector time at 34.4, 3/10 quicker than Kenneth Heyer, 4/10 quicker than Severin Mazur. So he is faster at the moment than the 2 cars ahead of him, and might yet be able to challenge for a podium after all. Then you've got Aigner in the KTM, which, well, yes, generally handles quite well, but didn't seem all that comfortable in these conditions. Again, he missed the apex there through 7. That sort of backed Gephardt to Wintu Veselajo. Jerzy Spinkovic is with them as well, rather predictably, in the orange highlighted Lamborghini, which we know is like a rocket ship down the straight. Pulls up alongside the other cars into the braking zone. The KTM getting swamped. On the inside goes Veselajo in the Ferrari. And this is not ideal for Marius Aigner, who is leading the GTX class, but John Lancaster, we know, is carving his way through the order. In fact, there is Lancaster, the red and black KTM crossbow. Not far behind, sideways and around goes Aigner. He tangled there with Jerzy Spinkovic ever so slightly, and that will now cost him the GTX lead.
Yes, Spinkovic well into the top 10 at this point. And Alessio Ruffini in a spin. Did I see the suspension looking a bit wayward? No, all 4 wheels pointing the correct direction. But he will be a ways back now. Aigner falls out of the top 10 as Lancaster moves into the top 10. The ex-junior single-seater star, the ex-LMP racer as well, and GT racer at the Le Mans 24 Hours and other ACO events. A really solid hand, and a real treat to see him there here in this very different car, the KTM Crossbow GT2, intermingling with the GT3s, well into the top 10, and will be looking to go further. Now he's going to challenge for 9th up against Rudolf Benno.
Indeed so. So round the right-hander at 4 we go. And again, I was really struggling to find the grip, aren't they? Had a couple of little moments in this race already. Not from Jerzy Spinkovic, though, who survived that little clash up at turn 12, and he's now closing in on the Gephardt and Veselajo scrap for 6th position. And they've been massively dropped by Simon Orange, who's 3 seconds up the road from this group now. So into the final third of the race already. And there is Orange, there the Gulf livery McLaren of Gephardt 707. Car seemingly a little bit of a cork in the bottle now. It is definitely Jerzy Spinkovic, the man on the move.
Yeah, that SMC Motorsport McLaren looking pretty healthy and pretty resplendent in its Gulf livery. Of course, they're our fuel partners, so we doff the cap to them. It's the first time that the SMC Motorsport team, led by Emilio Di Viotta, the ex-F1 driver, have raced in GT3s. So it is a really new experience here, but it seems like Gephardt and the rest of the team have got the car hooked up early doors here at Barcelona, running well in 6th overall for now. Veselajo just behind in 7th place, but I can't keep myself from staring at the Lamborghini behind and thinking it's not going to be long before it's up to 6th overall. Keep an eye on the Unique Racing Lambo as they run down the main straight towards turn 1. He's gone to the outside of Veselajo and is, I think, just going to back out of it for the time being. But Jerzy Spinkovic, as confident as we've ever seen him at the wheel of this car, and again, given the circumstances, that's really heartening to see. Look at him sweeping around the outside here at Veselajo. He's got less downforce in the Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo car, of course, than the GT3s around him. And that does prove to not quite allow him to take the wet line around the corner. He instead dives to the inside at turn 4. Still can't get it done, but Spinkovic keen to move as far up the overall order as possible.
looks like he's never been away, isn't it, Jerzy Spinkovic? I remember him fighting for overall race wins at the beginning of last year's GT Winter Series, and well, he maybe if he'd have started with the GT3 cars, might have been able to do the same sort of thing in this race. He's struggling at the moment, though, to get past the Ferrari, isn't he? And Vettel just keeping his car on the preferred line, the AF Corsa machine. Jerzy Spinkovic just trying to be as patient as he can and keep himself out in front. That's something Pipo Massa has not been able to do, I'm afraid, in Cup 2. Anders Steiner has got the lead of that category now. Good news for Anders, not such good news for Pipo Massa. Igor Klyer still third in that class. He's 8 seconds now ahead of Raffaele Vitali in the, Pavel Bushka in his Cup 2 Porsche. So third for Klyer in class looks a certainty. Kenneth Heyer is not under huge threat for third in his category, GT3. And Simon Orange, I don't think, quite has the pace to catch the cars ahead. So we might now have a bit of a better picture of what the points will look like with 2 races to go.
A bit of a wide moment there from Veselaho, fighting the car on corner entry. Spinkovic is going to have the run. He's going to have the superior power, over 600 horses, around 620 for the Super Trofeo spec Lamborghini. The BOP'd and higher downforced GT3s have about 50 to 60 horses less. Spinkovic was through there as we cut away past both cars. We saw a spin there for Przemysław Biankowski. He's trying to rejoin the track at the moment. Spinkovic is getting fired back on here. Alejandro Geppert gets back through, but Spinkovic dragged past the AF Corsa Ferrari down that main straight.
Yes, and nearly had 2 places, as you quite rightly said. So Spinkovic really looking on his toes here, but now through the more technical sections of the track, the higher downforce GT3s with their slightly fancier electronics and driver aids are going to have a bit of an advantage. And Veselaho, in fact, not only gets past Spinkovic, but then throws it up the inside of Geppert into turn number 5. They're 3 abreast on the exit, and Jerzy Spinkovic reads the situation perfectly, got a brilliant switchback, used the power of the Lambo, and drags his way through into 6th position.
That was very smart driving from Jerzy Spinkovic there. He's through into 6th position. I don't think there'll be much looking back from here. His next target, of course, is Simon Orange, and they collided here last year. So let's hope there's not a resumption of that. But Jerzy Spinkovic up into 6th overall. Simon Orange, incidentally, is 3.6 seconds back from Severin Mazur, and in terms of lap time, they're almost level pegging, just 400ths between them on the previous lap. So it's going to take a bit of an effort for Orange to make any more progress in this one. As it stands, they will be tied on points going into race 2. It's 4 points between them coming into this race, and it'll be even Stevens heading into Sunday. Where do I remember that from? Oh, Abu Dhabi 2021. Never mind.
Yes, the less said about that, the better, I think. But I'll tell you what, I'm rubbing my hands with glee already at the prospect of tomorrow's 2 races. Of course, we'll get their pro drivers in the cars, we presume, for the first race tomorrow, and then they'll be sharing driver duties in race 3. It's likely, in fact almost certain now, I suspect, to go down to that final race tomorrow. And I'd say equally likely there'll be very little between them going into that race. There is Kenneth Heyer. Now, I haven't seen a lot of Kenneth in this race, but he has done everything that he needed to here. He has seen off the challenge of Severin Mazur. He's now 4 seconds behind him, actually, is Severin in the Lamborghini. So Kenneth Heyer is holding on nicely to this 3rd position. He's within a couple of seconds of Ignacio Zanon. So if Zanon were to have a moment somewhere, Kenneth could well be able to take advantage. And crucially, he hasn't put a foot wrong in this one. And that's often the case in these nip and tuck championship battles when you get to the final weekend. So often it's the team or the driver that executes the best, that makes the fewest mistakes, that ends up coming out at the end of the season as champions. And yeah, that looks at the moment like it's swinging in the favour of SR Motorsport. We've had another trading of positions here between Spinkovic and Veselaho. So I think you were confidently predicting that Jerzy would be able to get away from the Ferrari. That has not been the case.
Yeah, 1.3 seconds split at the line. I think Spinkovic may have had a moment somewhere. 3 minutes and 40 seconds left in this race then. Albag comfortable. Zanon a couple of seconds clear of Kenneth Heyer, who's been putting on a pretty good performance here in the wet. Igor Klyer off the circuit, one of the 3 championship contenders, is off the track. He was just up to 2nd in class, and now he's on the verge of not finishing the race. Now, he will have done enough laps to be a point scorer at the very least, but that is still a huge blow to PTT Racing.
Yeah, well, that will now be 6th place points, essentially, that he will take in that category. So he was, as you said, just into 2nd place ahead of Anders Steiner, and that would have been a very nice haul of points. In fact, he would have been scoring more points than any of the championship contenders if he'd have stayed there, but not able to hang on to it. Pipo Massa then back into the lead of the class as well, yes. So Kieran Mogg, I must give credit for noticing that, sat watching over our shoulders. Pipo had lost the lead earlier on. Steiner was leading and had dropped down to 3rd, so there's been a big sort out in Cup 2, and it's Massa back on top.
Yeah, Pipo Massa, I think another one of the Cup 2 cars may have had a moment out there somewhere, because we did have a different leader previous, didn't we? But Veselaho up in 6th overall, Spinkovic in 7th overall, and both of them going past the stricken number 7 car of Igor Klyer, and that will be a seismic moment for the championship for PTT Racing. They won't mathematically be out of contention, but certainly they now rely on more misfortune, quite frankly, for Hire and Orange for any opportunity to move into the championship lead.
Yes, indeed. So I think it was Anders Steiner who had the lead, which is why I was wondering how he dropped down to 3rd. So he's had a drama, and then something separate has happened to Igor Klyer, perhaps. We'll try and piece that together if we can. Guy Albag, though, what a performance this has been from the Antonelli Motorsport driver. He was nearly 7 seconds up the road at the beginning of the lap from Ignazio Zanon, and likely will have extended that margin again this time by, and heads now across the line with a minute and a half to go, and well, a 6.4 second lead. He's backed things off ever so slightly. Zanon is 3.8 ahead of Hire, who is now 5 seconds ahead of Mazur. So the leading group of GT3 cars pretty static now. The one still very much pushing on, surprise, surprise, is Simon Orange. He was 1.1 seconds quicker than Severin Mazur on the previous lap, so it was a bit of a slow lap for Severin, it must be said. Simon, though, still pushing on and not giving up, and he can't afford to give up. Every point is going to count.
Yeah, both parties will be tied by the looks of it on 190 points coming out of this race, and it'll be 172 points with 6th place points scored for Igor Klyer. So still possible, not as probable as it was up until this point in the race. Guy Albag just a few corners from home then, 30 seconds left on the clock as he now starts to climb back uphill here in the latter half of the lap. Onto the back straight he goes. Albag, who struggled a little bit, I think, to get to grips with everything at Motorland Aragon. Not his first appearance in the car, but we saw him fall back through the order on a couple of occasions, as if maybe they went the wrong way between qualifying and race with the setup. Now, though, that car has looked very compliant underneath him.
It has indeed. He has not put a foot wrong in tricky conditions, and yeah, managed to execute a brilliant restart. I think that was a significant part of this, because he got away from Zanon early doors and then was able to get his head down and settle into a rhythm. So well-deserved race win heading to Antonelli here, while some big stories unfold behind them.
Well, an Antonelli Mercedes P1, that's already happened on another continent today. The 64 car comes across the line. Guy Albag takes the win for Antonelli Motorsport, and a GT3 class win as well as overall to go with it. Ignazio Zanon in 2nd place. Kenneth Hire taking 3rd position to round out the podium places and equalise the points with Simon Orange in the championship. Orange Racing by JMH and the number 11 SR by Schnitzelbaum car tied coming into Sunday. What a headline that is. Jerzy Spinkovic winning Cup 4 from 7th overall. Tobias Bill-Clausen winning the Proto class from 9th place in the BWT Muka Motorsport Duquesne. Rudolf Benno comes across the line in 10th overall. Great to see Senkia out there in the GT Winter Series, having regularly competed with us in other years, and indeed having been a part of our endless summer track days for a long, long time. Guy Albag cruising it home. Cup 2 win is about to come across the line. Pipo Massa coming out of the final corner, just ahead of Anders Steiner. Steiner was on the recovery drive, but Pipo Massa will win in class. And I bet he was punching the air as he came across the line. Oh, we've got Severin Mazur off on the in-lap after the checkered flag. Severin has gone rally crossing, but still finishes 4th overall, all the same. But what a result for Pipo Massa. He will be very pleased, I'm sure his father will as well, down at AF Motorsport. Andre Fernandez, the other AF car, of course, the Porsche 991.2 GT3R that we are familiar with. He finished further down the field in the GT3 class, but I think he still enjoyed his race, finishing 11th overall and 9th in GT3. Look Motorsport recovering their GT4 from Parc Ferme. They have a prototype to contend with next, of course. But Guy Albag, our race winner in the GT Winter Series. First time he's won in the Winter Series paddock. Of course, he was with us previously in Formula Winter Series competition, taking the big step up to GT racing. Has already been successful in Italy in a cameo appearance, winning an AM class race in Italian GT. But this is a big moment for him, and clearly it means a lot to the crew as well. The Antonelli team have a lot of personnel on the ground today between the Formula Grid and the GTs. A big smile on Guy Albag's face as well. Alfredo Hernandez, I think, may have missed the checkered flag. He's just coming across the line now to do, I think, a second in lap. He has indeed already taken the checkered flag, but he will make his way around fairly quickly. The rest of the field streaming into Parc Ferme. The top three parked down under the pit lane, under the podium, I should say. 190 points is the headline. Orange Racing by JMH with a tricky race. Simon Orange getting started on the wrong foot but recovering fairly well, and he will be tied now with, or they will be tied, Orange and Clutton, with Haya and Hertling going into Sunday. That is going to be a lot of fun to watch on Sunday. Igor Klaya still with an outsider's shot at the championship, but it is now a much more distant possibility for the driver of the number 7 PTT car. For Jamo Hertling and Marcus Clutton, routinely the stronger drivers of the lineups in the 67 and 11 cars, I think they will feel a lot of pressure on their shoulders. One man who will feel no pressure after that result, Guy Albag, is with Izzy.
Yeah, and he's a popular guy. There's a lot of people that have come down here to celebrate with him. Guy, congratulations, a first win in GT3s. That must feel good, especially given it was an up and down weekend last weekend in Aragon.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a good week, like good race. I think we had a good pace. At the end, I started slowing down a bit because the tires were done, but yeah, overall it's good.
Well, you'd built a nice gap before that. I mean, you left the safety car restart very late, but actually managed it perfectly.
Yeah, it was good. I managed to get a big gap compared to the Lamborghini behind me, and then it was just staying in line and driving like I know to drive.
And what were the conditions like out there today?
Yeah, it was getting drier, and then the tires were in the high temperature, so I tried to sometimes on the straight line to go off the racing line, so to get some wet, like the wet tarmac, and then wasn't helping so much, but yeah, so it's good.
Well, you've got the win under your belt now. I mean, what does this do for confidence tomorrow? And also, how much does it mean to see all these people celebrating you?
Yeah, we will keep pushing for tomorrow. Hopefully it's gonna be dry tomorrow. And yeah, just old team of mine. I raced with them last year in the F4. It's very nice to see them again.
Congratulations. Go and enjoy the win on the podium. Yeah, the entire Rodin team has come down here to celebrate, Guy.
Saw in the back of shot there as well that Hans Heyer is here, father of Kenneth Heyer. Great to have him in the paddock. Let's take a look back then at highlights from race 1 of the weekend. Well, the first race of the GT Winter Series weekend started in a spin for Simon Orange. He'd make a couple of errors, unfortunately, on the formation lap and would therefore start from the rear of the GT3 order. At the front of the field, Guy Albag got a clean launch. The rest of the field making their way through the early corners in a tentative nature, not surprising with the amount going on around the circuit. We see there Alfredo Hernandez in a spin. It wasn't Przemysław Bienkowski at the moment, it was Alfredo Hernandez. But either way, a spinning Mercedes on the first lap. The Cup class cars get underway. And while that was happening, a spin for Florian Schulze and a spin in sympathy from John Lancaster, who I think maybe was just caught out slightly by seeing the Audi parked there in the gravel. The 86 car just powered down too early, I think, for Florian Schulze, and beached in the gravel as a result of that. Safety car was deployed, of course, to retrieve the machine. The entire grid now together in one long, sinuous queue. And Simon Orange got a very, very good start. He did get squeezed wide by Rudolf Benno, but made up some places and was making his way back towards the top half dozen in the GT3 class. He needed to try and minimise the points lost to Kenneth Heyer, of course, and he had an obstacle in the form of the Aigner-driven GTX KTM. Marius Aigner, not part of the GT3 class, of course, but he was fighting as if he was. Simon Orange had to go around the outside, and that was a move for position, not in class, but in the overall standings. Jerzy Spinkovic was on the move as well. He was having a great race. He did, however, collide with the 119 car and sent Aigner into a spin. Alessio Raffini ended up spinning in sympathy as well. Lots going on around the circuit. Florian Schulze on his recovery drive, following Alfredo Hernandez, and Pipo Massa there, up among the GT3 cars in his Cup 2 Porsche. Anders Steiner had a spin, and that would give Pipo Massa the class lead in Cup 2. Florian Schulze battling it out with the 84 Porsche. That's the Evo spec 992 GT3R. Great to have one of them for the first time. Bienkowski in a spin. Spinkovic moving up the field, getting around the 707 and Veselaho in the AF Corsa Ferrari. Geppert in the SMC McLaren, though, was getting the better of the situation until they went 3 wide. Spinkovic getting a much better run out of turn 5. That was a fairly easy move. It wouldn't be definitive, though. He'd continue fighting Veselaho until the end of the race. Pipo Massa with Alfredo Hernandez for company as he was trying to focus forward on the Cup 2 lead. A disaster in Cup 2 for Igor Klyer. He beached himself in the gravel, will only score points for 6th position, and that may not cut the mustard for his title aspirations. Przemysław Bienkowski making a second spin, unfortunately, but he would be classified ultimately down in 25th position. Pipo Massa was defending hard at the end of the race for the Cup 2 win, which he held over Anders Steiner. And celebrations for Guy Albag, the winner for Antonelli Motorsport. The first time, I think, that Antonelli have won in the GT Winter Series. Albag, the number 64 car, at the top of the tree. Ignazio Zanon in second position, ahead of Kenneth Heyer for SR Motorsport by Schnitzelalb, whose podium finish puts them on equal terms in the championship fight. Severin Mazur in fourth, ahead of Simon Orange for Orange Racing by JMH. That gap then now nullified. Jaroslav Veselaho in 6th position. Jerzy Spinkovic winning Cup 4 from 4th, ahead of Alejandro Geppert. Tobias Bill Clausen winning the Proto class from 9th overall, ahead of Rudolf Benno. In 11th position, it was Andre Fernandez of AF Motorsport, John Lancaster in P12 for MZR KTM, Petar Matic 13th and second in Cup 4 in the Lamborghini, Florian Schulze 14th, Marius Eigner recovering to 15th ahead of Alessio Raffini, Oliver Witzer in 17th place, Alfredo Hernandez in 18th, and Pipo Massa winning by a hair's breadth at the end there with Anders Steiner in the Cup 2 class. Michael Hove running 21st overall, Alberto Di Martine, the sole GT2 class entry in 22nd, Raffaele Vitale next in the order, Pavel Bushka in 24th, Przemysław Bienkowski 25th ahead of Forsberg, Fischbaum, Kimby, and Andreas Greiling, Igor Klyer not taking the flag but doing just enough to be classified as a finisher, not out of the championship order, but certainly several steps further back than he was coming into this race. An interesting race in the GT Winter Series, a thriller in prospect for Sunday with tied points on the horizon. Will it be Orange Racing by JMH? Will it be SR Motorsport by Schnitzelbaum? That's going to be the question for Sunday. And Kenneth Hyatt, for now, gets to celebrate the podium, but it'll be celebrations of a muted nature, I think, because he'll be just as transfixed with what comes next as we are here as well. So Jerzy Spinkovic, I do want to again spotlight him returning to the sport after an absence stretching back over half a year. He's been through a lot to get back into the car, and great to see that he is every bit as fast as he was where we saw him previously in the GT Winter Series. Spinkovic with a comfortable Cup 4 win and a 7th place finish overall, beating out some of those GT3s. A great day in the office for him. Guy Albag's pace in that race was really quite impressive for Antonelli. Have the feeling that perhaps Zanon or Haya or even Mazur could challenge, but Guy Albag held strong. Of course, the big test for him, I think, will come on Sunday morning, where he drives solo up against the likes of Hertling, the likes of Michelotto, Marcus Clutton. That will be a eyebrow raiser, I'm sure, for him. He'll have some work to do to try and match the feat in the second sprint race of the weekend. Of course, he'll be driving solo into the third and final race of the weekend. Tensions high coming into Sunday. And Kenneth Hyatt, who has done this all before, of course, has fought for many championships over the years. Even he, I think, will be a little bit preoccupied with the maths. He'll sit in his motorhome this evening working out what he needs to do. And ultimately, when you're tied for points, I think the only answer is win, win, and win some more. And certainly he'll be willing Jamo Hertling on in race 2 on Sunday morning. The GTX class, of course, fairly well populated this weekend, and it was John Lancaster that won that category. I think it will be tomorrow that we see Hamed Al-Wahibi at the wheel. I'm sure there'll be a lot of Omani motorsport fans watching that one. The first ever driver from Oman to compete in the World Rally Championship and a runner-up in the Group N Cup of the WRC in 1999. That would, of course, later be known as the Production World Rally Championship. A very impressive driver, and this is his circuit racing debut. He's been focusing on Baja-style competition in recent times, and I'm very curious to see how he adapts to racing in the world of the circuits. It'll be, I think, dry conditions. The wet might not be such a bad thing for him if he were to experience it, given he has done some 3 decades on loose surfaces, but we'll see how he performs in the KTM. Incidentally, it was a KTM that he was testing for Baja. Yes, they do build Baja buggies as well, that led to this debut, and we look forward to seeing that unfold on Sunday. Of course, in the Sunday endurance race, Pipo Massa will be handing the car over to Felipe for the third and final race. We'll get to see the 11-time Grand Prix winner in his element. He's not raced in Europe for a good number of years. He's raced in his home continent and in Brazil itself fairly regularly, but in terms of European racing, I think you have to go back to his Formula E tenure to see Felipe Massa here in the EU. So we are, of course, awaiting personnel for the podiums, and in fact, I think we've just collared the last of them. Andy, let's go down to you.
Well, a fantastic opening day of the season finale here at Barcelona. Our GT Winter Series podium is ready to go. And we start with the GTX class. In third position, Michael Fishbaum. He heads to the third step of the podium. Second position in GTX, Marius Aigner. And Marius gets a huge cheer from the crew down below. I suspect another one is incoming for our GTX class winner, John Lancaster. And John climbs to the top step of the podium. We have got Mark and Stefan once again from GEDLICH Racing team, along with our Pirelli representative Florencio, to hand the trophies out to our GTX winners. And we saw plenty of dicing amongst the GTX cars as they got mixed in with some of the GT3s. Photos can be taken of our GTX podium finishers. And John Lancaster managing to claim himself a win. And a 1-2 for the MZR team as well. They are very happy with that. We've got a full pit lane down below the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya podium to join in the celebration, starting with GTX and moving on now to our Cup 4 podium finishes. And once again, we've got two drivers from the same team to introduce. In third position in Cup 4 for Autosport Racing, Alessio Ruffini. And it's another Autosport Racing driver that we welcome onto the podium next. Second place in Cup 4 for Peter Matic. Who shakes the hand of his Autosport Racing teammate. The race win, though, goes to Unique Racing. What a return to GT Winter Series competition for our Cup 4 winner, Jerzy Spinkovic. And the trophies handed out by, once again, the GEDLICH and Pirelli crew. What a return from injury for Jerzy Spinkovic. And he had circled this weekend as his ideal return to the track. And what an ideal return it was. Not only picking up the Cup 4 win, but once again proving that he has the pace to battle the GT3 cars. The safety car brought him into contention for an overall top 6 finish. And he was thoroughly enjoying that battle. And celebrates a win in Cup 4. So our Cup 4 drivers leave the podium and we head next to Cup 3. Just the one driver that we think we're going to be welcoming to the podium this time. Our Cup 3 winner for MS Racing, Andreas Greiling. And out comes the winner's trophy for Andreas, who is basking in the adoration of the crowd down below. Oh, wait there a second. We've got photos to be taken. Still get back on the top step, Andreas. He's very keen to leave and begin his celebrations, but the GEDLICH team are here to capture the moment of his victory in Cup 3, the McLaren Artura Trophy category. Cup 2 next, a dramatic race in Cup 2, a championship-defining one for Igor Klyer, who does not make it onto the podium. We do, though, welcome our third-place finisher, Pavel Bushka. He heads to the third step of the podium to be joined on the second step by Team Steiner Racing's Anders Steiner. And Anders Steiner, who led early on, lost the lead in the latter going though, and that means that it's AF Motorsport celebrating the victory with Pipo Massa. fantastic reception from the team down below. Pipo Massa heads to the top step of the podium and proves that the apple didn't fall particularly far from that tree, did it? He has a big smile on his face as he receives his winner's trophy from Florencio, from Pirelli and Pipo Massa. It was a tough battle, that, between he and Anders Steiner. Of course, Igor Klaya briefly getting involved in that too. Igor's non-finish, though, might now have taken him out of championship contention. We will wait and see what happens tomorrow. For now, though, it is AF Motorsport celebrating as Pipo Massa celebrates victory in Cup 2. Congratulations, guys. They leave the podium, and we now have our Cup 1 winner set to join us on the podium. Just the one entrant in Cup 1 this weekend. So the victory goes to Rosso Corsa's Raffaele Vitale. On to the top step of the podium he will go, and again receives a winner's trophy. He's leaving before he even gets the trophy, let alone has his photo taken by Laurie Southern, our GEDLICH Racing photographer. Now he does pose for the cameras, and Raffaele gets the Cup 1 Ferrari home in one piece and takes a trophy home with him as a result. We will now move on to GT2, where once again we have just the one driver to welcome onto the podium. The GT2 victory goes to NM Racing Team's Alberto De Martin. Onto the top step he goes then. He's very happy with that. The Spaniard on home ground picking up a trophy and getting the victory in GT2. And the only GT2 spec car out there running to the GT2 balanced performance, hence why he was in a class of his own, but able to get the car to the flag and claim a trophy. Right, GT3 is up next, and this of course also incorporates our overall top 3 finishers. Third position, hugely valuable championship points for SR Motorsport by Schnitzel-Alm's Kenneth Heyer. And Kenneth stands on the third step of the podium. It's the second step for VSR's Lamborghini of Ignazio Zanon. But it is a race victory, and I suspect a loud cheer incoming for Antonelli Motorsports' Guy Alberg. And that is a huge cheer, not only from the AKM squad, but lots of the Rodin team, including our Formula Winter Series champion, I noticed down there, joining in the celebrations as Guy Alberg holds the trophy aloft and celebrates victory in the opening race of the weekend in very tricky conditions. 2 Mercedes AMGs on the GT3 podium, and whilst Guy Alberg is stealing the limelight slightly, let it not be forgotten what an important result that was from Kenneth Heyer to claim third position, outscoring his championship rival and leading us to a tie in the points going into the final day of competition tomorrow. Congratulations, guys. Well done, Kenneth. An important result that for the SR Motorsport driver. One last podium to be conducted, and this is for the Proto class. Second position for Michael Hove. And the race win in the Proto class goes the way of BWT Muka Motorsports' Tobias Bild Clausen. And now the final lot of trophies are handed out, and we have Jan and Mark from GEDLICH Racing to hand those trophies out to our Proto top 2 finishers. And again, lots of celebrations still ongoing down in the pit lane. So photos taken, podiums concluded here on day 1 of the Winter Series finale. Let's head down into the pit lane and get some final thoughts from Izzy Browning.
Oh, thank you, Andy. What a day it has been here in Barcelona, and we get to go again tomorrow. I mean, it's given us just about everything, hasn't it? The Formula Winter Series, the team's title still to be decided, but Rodin taking a 1-2-3 to start things off nicely here in Barcelona. And then the GT4s, well, what a race they gave us. Charlie Hart doing a fantastic job. And then tomorrow, it will be this year's champion Enrico Federer versus last year's champion Mackenzie Cresswell. And then the big one, the GT Winter Series, the two contenders coming into the final day of the season on equal points. It could not be set up better. Make sure you join us. It's going to be a fantastic season finale. Join us from 8:45 tomorrow morning local time.
We are racing in the Formula Winter Series for the second weekend. 1.3 seconds. It does get a mighty run outside of the final corner.